back. I see again the meeting is being recorded, sign flashing across. So if that's in the middle, just click on continue, and we're going to continue. In fact, I would like us to go straight back in. We're in day 3, let's say the middle part of our journey, kind of the belly of the beast, if we want to put it that way. We're going to continue this morning with the section that we started yesterday afternoon on designing and implementing a project. So in a way, we're really diving into the nuts and bolts of our work. And we started the foundations for this section, I would say, even on Monday when we had the section on programming that was led by Claude and Mohammed, which introduced us to some of the main overarching programming directions in GEF 7 and then the GEF's work. And then yesterday, we entered into this section, starting with discussions on operations. So the operations of our work in developing and implementing projects. We have guidelines for that Henry and Jonathan were introducing us to. And then we got into the section on policies. So policies also as critical pieces of informing and guiding our work in this section on how to design and implement a project. So now we're going to continue in the section on policies, and let me turn it over to Paola, who I think will kick us off for this next segment. Paola, are you there?
Thank you very much, Peter. Welcome, everyone. Marhaba, bonjour, bienvenidos. And we're very happy to see you, see so many of you again. So we're continuing from yesterday, the policy and guidelines session, which is really about how to, and we're moving now to the gender equality guidelines, the environmental and social safeguard guidelines, and you, Peter, with the conflict resolution. You're our expert on site on this, and finally bringing it all together with a knowledge management requirements presentation with some of our tools that can be useful for all of you, and that will be presented in separate sessions later in the training, in the seminar program. But first we have a small quiz, which I think should be appearing soon. Let me see if it's coming. Okay, it's not, I saw it coming in, so it was being tested. So I hope it is ready. Otherwise, I would say we proceed with Gabriella, who is our senior gender specialist, as well as our safeguards coordinator, together with Susan. So we'll have the quiz later at 8:30. Thank you. Gabriella, over to you.
Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's unbelievable. We're already almost up to 300 people, again, going strong today on the 3rd day. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk in the morning when you all are fresh. So I don't know that much about you. I don't know really which countries you're coming from, what your background or experiences are, or your age or your gender for that matter. But I can imagine, and I do think I know, that most of you must have heard about the importance of gender equality over the last 20 years. Whether you come from a country in Asia, Latin America, or a Scandinavian country like myself, you probably have heard about your country and your government's efforts to change policies, laws, and in terms of pushing forward on gender equality. You might have read an article about the corporations that are trying to embrace gender diversity to increase their profits, or, as I can imagine, most of you come from a development or environmental organization. And you have heard there, both within the Sustainable Development Goals, but also within the MEAs that we work on, the importance that they place on gender. So my goal here today is to be as fast as I can to tell you a little bit of our reasons why we are addressing gender, and then as the objective of the session to go into some of the details and how to address gender within GEF projects and programs. You can go to the next slide. So the GEF actually has addressed gender already, not really from the onset and when we were established, but we started already in 2015 and where we adopted one policy on gender mainstreaming. This policy was very much oriented towards do no harm, making sure that the GEF's projects and programs did not have any adverse impacts on women, or that it contributed to greater inequalities. But as we implemented that policy, we heard and we learned from our partners and stakeholders that we needed to do a little bit better. We needed to move beyond doing no harm and actually doing some good. So in following recommendations from our independent evaluation office and also extensive consultations, we updated our policy in 2017. This policy very much sort of aligned the GEF's framework on gender to the increased attention on gender equality within the multilateral environmental agreements, but also what is happening outside within most of the agencies that we work in. We try to come up with a framework and a policy and a strategy also that helped us to not only make sure that women and men had equal opportunities to participate in GEF projects, to contribute to GEF projects and benefit from GEF projects, but also finding ways to catalyze projects that have a greater potential to generate environmental impacts. And one of the things that we did early on was to look what are some of those gender gaps that are very relevant to most of GEF's portfolio. Remember, as you heard yesterday and all across the last 2 days, we have a very vast and big portfolio. But what we tried to do was to look at what are some of the major gender gaps that are relevant to us. And we have then with a lot of stakeholder consultations and research, we found that there are sort of 3 main gender gaps that we think are relevant to the GEF and that we hope that most of our projects actually are addressing. And the first one is really related to the unequitable access and control over natural resources between women and men. We do know still that women tend to have less access to and control over natural resources. And this impacts their way of engaging in our projects. It impacts their ability to contribute to environmental sustainability. We also know that, especially within different environmental sectors, that women continues to have a less opportunity to participate in environmental planning, or to actually taking on a leadership role in natural resource management. We also know from a long time, especially from the agriculture sector, that women tend to get much less of development finance or less benefits from development finance. And that in fact, quite often we tend to provide more financings for men's income generating activities, probably because at that point that they would have greater revenues coming into the project. So those are the 3 areas that we've been looking at within the GEF portfolio. And that's why we are sort of pushing and moving from a do no harm to a do good approach and addressing some of these gender gaps. But I know the time is short, so let me not focus too much on the background and move to the next slide. Thank you. So this is the crux. This is the how. How do we do this? How do we make sure within our project portfolios that actually we are doing good? We have come up with a framework, and it's outlined in our policy, and in the last slide you will get all the references to where you can find further information. But one of the things that is really important to design a good gender responsive projects is to understand the underlying socioeconomic context and the roles, knowledge, and needs of women and men. So one of the things that we ask already in the project concept in the PIF stage is to make sure that the projects has really looked at some of these issues early on, looked at what are some barriers for women to participate, what are the different roles and responsibility of men and women that is related to the project. So what we're really looking at that level is sort of an early analysis. We also want to see at that stage that the project actually has a plan to do more analysis and planning on these issues. And especially here, what we really are, and you heard it from Pilar on the stakeholder engagement, that the early consultations include both men and women and really are responsive to the needs of women. So that's what we're looking at sort of at the concept level. Then when we move forward in the GEF project cycle, when now projects have really gone through a consultative process, we are asking for a more in-depth gender analysis. The gender analysis is really, really key for the project to identify both barriers for women to participate or contribute or benefit from GEF projects, but also to identify those entry points to address gender gaps that can help the GEF to generate greater environmental benefits. But we don't just want to end it by knowing what's out there or knowing these issues, but really to design gender responsive measures to address it, and that is then incorporated well in the overall project and in the different project components. So we are asking for a gender responsive action plan to be elaborated on this level. And just also here relating, if you can remember, that Cyril talked about our results architecture. And similar here, we are looking for projects to identify gender sensitive indicators, targets, so that they can monitor their progress moving forward. We are also asking later on, because yes, it's good to have all of these plans, but we need to know what are the results. We need to share the knowledge of what works and what doesn't. So we are requesting at midterm reviews, terminal evaluation, more information on what the progress has been on gender, but also the learning, and which you will hear much more from Jasmine later today. So I think I'm going to end it there and then move to the next slide. So again, just to highlight, it is, it's not just about project requirements. Because it will not maybe help us to really get the transformation that we need. We need to focus on the learning and knowledge sharing and knowing what is working and what is not working. We need to build capacity within our own institutions, but also more broadly with other institutions. We need to learn from others. We need to build partnerships, and this is not maybe partnerships just partnerships with us here, but partnerships with women institutions and women organizations in the countries where we work. And that is one of the things that we are seeing. I just also wanted to say, because I think I forgot it, what is important when we look at the GEF policy on gender, and the same on stakeholder engagement, and later, as you will see, on the environmental and social safeguards, is that we don't just have these project requirements, we also actually have another tool that we use in our toolbox, which is that we have minimum requirements on both stakeholder engagement and on gender, that all of the agencies, all the GEF 18 agencies must be in adherence to. And we actually do an assessment of all our agencies to make sure that they have the policies, the procedures, the systems, and the capability internally to address gender. So I'm just going to quickly, and as you remember a little bit earlier, I alluded to those 3 gender gaps. Access to net resources, access and control to net resources, women's leadership and participation, and targeted socioeconomic benefits. And one of the things that we launched in the GEF 7 was a sort of, we call it a gender tag. So all of the projects that are submitted for GEF's review and approval have to tag to tag and try to identify whether they think that they will contribute to closing some of these gaps. And we have found, and this is, I think, the latest review that we have done, that almost 90% of GEF's projects to date, or the GEF 7 projects, I should say, are having specific activities to improving women's participation and decision making. We're also seeing that projects, a little bit less, but that makes sense because of the portfolio that we have in the projects are contributing to helping women to get greater access and control of net resources. And finally, we are also seeing that a lot of the projects are contributing to increasing, could be income generating activities for women and other socioeconomic benefits. And here the socioeconomic benefits is not just about money, it's about access to information and other things. So we are seeing actually that we are pushing towards what I said, doing good. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So I'm going to end. I know I could not do justice to all of the work or all of the depth of work that we've done on this in this short presentation, but here are some of the resources. I would specifically want you to look at the guidance to advance gender equality. This guidance was developed in very close partnership with the GEF Gender Partnership that includes gender experts from all of the GEF agencies and experts on gender from the environmental conventions and other organizations that like UN Women and others. It includes a lot of the practical steps and ways and how to address gender, how to do a gender analysis, and what are some issues about developing indicators, etc. Also together with this group, the GEF Gender Partnership, and in a very close collaboration with the Small Grants Program, we have developed an online training course on gender and environment. This includes information. It's an open, free access online platform where you can find information on each of the, on how gender relates to each of the focal areas of the GEF: biodiversity, climate, land degradation, water, etc. And this course, we're already very happy. We have already over 15,000 people that have taken certificates in this course. You can find more information on all of this on the links that I have, but you will also, as I know, you're going to be provided all of this information on the website. That was, I think, that for me on gender. Now I need to breathe and take a step to the next topic. So, as you've heard, we have policies on stakeholder engagement. We have policies on gender, and we have policies of fiduciary standards that Jonathan discussed earlier. Our policy on environmental and social safeguards, you can actually go to the first slide so we can have some, yes, why not? Go there. It's important to look at the policy on, our policy on environmental and social safeguards in context, because our policy on gender equality, our policy and our framework on stakeholder engagement is complementing our policy on environmental and social safeguards. I don't know how much you know about environmental and social safeguards. You know, it has been around for a very long time. I think it came a lot when there was a lot of development finance going into those big infrastructure projects, dams, roads, and others. And when there was, you know, quite a lot of concerns about the environmental risks or the environmental impact and the social impacts on these big investments. But the environmental and social safeguards framework has changed a lot over the last year. It's become more than actually not just about doing no harm. It's also trying to do good and coming up with procedures on how to best manage risks, engage stakeholders in that effort. So the GEF have a new policy, or we updated our policy. We actually, in fact, had a policy on environmental and social safeguards since, I think, 2011, and we updated that in 2018. It's basically a framework to help us to manage environmental and social risks of our projects. And let me see. So when we updated this policy, there was three main issues. We were listening to our independent evaluation office, recommendation and evaluations. We listened to our stakeholders, and we realized that we were lagging a little bit behind on some of the major issues that are coming up. So we had a number of gaps and that we tried to fill. So we have strengthened, and I will go into that a little bit later in the next slide, but we strengthened some of those standards. There was also a requirement on the fact that we did not really document or report on any of the work that we were doing in environmental and social safeguards. So we had to improve and to request more information throughout in each of our projects on these environmental and social impacts. It also required us to, as a secretariat, to report to our council in order to help them to make decisions on what kind of the level and type of risks in the portfolio. So before I move forward, just to quickly again sort of summarize what it is. Environmental and social safeguards sounds complicated, but it is really about, identifying, anticipating social and environmental risks and impact on people and the environment, is then to plan to avoid and mitigate those risks and impacts, and coming up with a monitoring framework, and then also to be nimble. And of course, things changes, that you have a framework in place to address new issues that can come up. I think before I go to the next slide, one of the things that I'm thinking that people think about safeguards, it is not about avoiding all of the risks. It is being smart about what risk you're willing to take, and to have a framework in place to address risks. So let's then move to the next slide. I know that I don't know, I can't look at the time right now. So don't be scared. This slide is not about scaring you, or I will not go into detail, but I think I do have to sort of give you sort of the framework of the environmental and social safeguards policy. We have now 9 minimum standards. These minimum standards is something that we look at, that all GEF agencies have to be in compliance with. They need to have the policies and processes and systems and capabilities to be able to address this. I will not go into detail, but let me just highlight a couple of things, and you can find much more information on the detailed standards in our policy. But just to start, so the environmental and social, the first standard is about the assessment, the management, and the monitoring, is about the process of the framework. And this one sets out, and there's a lot of details there, and I will not go into them, but basically just 4 things. It's about screening the projects as early as possible for any of the risks, and you can see them, any of the risk from 3 to 9 down there. Early in the process. It's important to know it early in the process. It's also important to classify the level of risks, and most institutions have a classifications system that says high, medium, or low. And these triggers different kinds of responses, but it's important to classify this early on. The other thing that the first standard highlight is the importance, and again, as Pilar was mentioned yesterday, it's about a meaningful consultation with stakeholders in this process. And then maybe the fourth, I said 4, yes, 4. The fourth is about coming up when you have identified the risk, when you have classified it, when you have consulted with stakeholders, that you come up with those risks that you found, that you come up with a strong environmental and social management plan. So that's sort of the first, but I just gonna highlight, because this is some of the new things that is included now in the first standard, it's the idea that we have to actually screen our projects now for climate change and disaster risks. Early screening if there is any differential impacts on people with disabilities. early screening on any impact on disadvantaged or vulnerable individuals or groups, and also the issue about screening whether there could be any adverse gender-related impacts, including issues that some of you might have heard about lately that's coming more and more information about, is gender-based violence. So there are a couple of new areas there that we are looking for agencies to screen before they submit any projects to us. So let's go. And then the second standards is about accountability, grievance, and conflict resolution. You will hear more from Peter on the conflict resolution. So let me highlight the issue about the grievance. As part of our safeguard standards, all agency needs to have a grievance mechanism inbuilt in the project that is independent, that is transparent, and that is effective and accessible to all stakeholders. And one of the key things that is new in this standard is also the importance of having a mechanism in place that ensures there is no retaliation to anyone that submits a complaint. So that is sort of that section. Then I'm going to go in, and here I will not go into detail because otherwise I'm going to take time from everyone else. But just to say, so the standards here, they're a little bit of a mix of both, of course, environmental risks and social risks. They are also about, in some of them, it's about, what kind of projects does the GEF not want to finance? We don't want to finance projects that are not compatible with our mission. We don't finance dams. We don't finance the use or the introduction of invasive species. We don't do this or we don't do that, because that's not something we want to make have GEF's money to go towards. I'm just going to highlight, I'm going to highlight the issues on indigenous peoples. This is one of those standards that we strengthened in this policy. It basically introduces the concept that when you're working or you are in a place where there are indigenous peoples and that they will be impacted by the project, in any way, the consultations, the assessment and screening must be in consultation with those impacted indigenous peoples. It also introduces the framework, and I hope that you've heard about it, the free, prior, and informed consent. And this is really important concept that was introduced in this policy. And then maybe just to highlight minimum standard 8 and 9. These are also new, fairly new standards. Standard 8 is really about protecting the rights of workers to align ourselves with the International Labor Organizations, the ILO. And the standard 9 is about highlighting, of course, the health, safety, and security risks on project affected communities. So again, I cannot do justice to the details in each of these standards, and I ask you to look at the policy for more information. Let's go to the next, and yes, so again, this is just to highlight. So the minimum standards really places most of the emphasis on ensuring that the GEF agencies, it actually relies on the GEF agencies' policies and procedures on safeguards. And what we do is, like I said, on gender as well with the minimum standards, is that we actually assess all agencies to make sure that they have the capabilities and the processes and the systems to be able to, for all of those minimum standards. But we also have, and that's what we're going to do in the next slide, we also have the issue on the project requirements, and then our responsibility to report to council on the risks in the portfolio. So next one. So I'm hoping that I'm not going over time. Peter, am I doing okay?
We have to come to conclusion soon.
Okay.
So, but you're doing great, thanks.
The conclusion is here. So here we are, here is the how. So this is that we're asking, and just very quickly, at the PIF level, we are wanting to see that the agencies have identified, done an early screening of the projects, that they disclose the information with the stakeholders, that they provide the early risk ratings or preliminary risk ratings, that they describe the types of risks in the portfolio and submit any documents to us. Later at the CEO endorsement through project development, of course, you are expecting that they have done a further analysis and that they again can consult and inform stakeholders. They again revise and think about what are the risk ratings, what are the level of risks that they are finding in the portfolio, and that they submit any management plans, environmental and social management plans. And then at a midterm review, that they, of course, provide information on the measures that they have done, and that they report on any changes in the risks and impacts. Next one, and then I will be done. No, I didn't have a next one. Well, that's good. Well, then I'm done. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Gabriella. And so let me come in now, actually, as not as moderator, but to say a few things about this next topic, which is the GEF conflict resolution system. One of the roles I have in the GEF Secretariat is I am the Conflict Resolution Commissioner, which is a role that helps to facilitate and communicate about the work in resolving conflicts at the GEF. I think there's just one slide, if we could go to it. Yeah, okay, so I just put together one slide. I'd just like to mention a few highlights about this. Gabriella has already alluded to the fact that at the project level, there will be grievance response systems, but at the GEF overall partnership level, we have a governance system which is in place to enable us to listen to and respond to complaints and concerns that come up in the projects and programs that are financed by the GEF. And so that's described here on this slide. So maybe the major element of this is a requirement that all agencies have in place an independent accountability and grievance system to receive complaints from affected people and communities who are concerned that something is going not quite right out there in the projects, or something that's not quite happening in accordance with the many policies that we're talking about. So why is this with agencies? And this is one of the minimum standards that agencies have. It's part of the responsibility that agencies have in the GEF governance system for implementing projects. That includes being there to respond to and address complaints and concerns. The different elements that need to be part of the accountability and grievance system in agencies are set out in two policies, in the safeguards policy that Gabriella just mentioned, and also in the fiduciary policies. And in fact, they're in those two policies because issues can come up under those two policies especially, but not only. And basically, the minimum standards include that the system of accountability and grievance response needs to be independent of the management of the agency. It needs to be able to do fact-finding. It needs to be visible and respond to complaints and concerns. It needs to have the capacity to look at questions of following policies if the people out there are saying it's not happening. And it also is intended to have a dialogue and a conciliation element. So you have the fact-finding and policy compliance on the one hand, and the alternative dispute resolution. Let's bring people together to see if we can resolve disputes as quickly and early as possible, and which the path that the complaining people go to is their choice. They can go for more like an investigation and a policy compliance review, which requires actions by the institution, or for a process of dialogue. So what's the purpose of this? We're talking a lot about our policies and bringing people into this car that we're driving on this journey in projects and programs. So a very important purpose of this is to give greater voice and rights of recourse for affected people and communities who are out there where our projects are taking place. We also, and I've learned, I used to be on the inspection panel at the World Bank before I actually joined the GEF many years ago, to enlist the expertise of people out on the ground, the local communities, the people who know their world, who know what's going on out there, the complaints mechanism, the opportunity to raise concerns is a wonderful opportunity to do that. And it's a very important piece of this. And then when there is a complaint and it gets into a grievance or an accountability system, the idea is to listen, to hear the voices, to listen to what the people with knowledge out there are saying. And of course, this is the idea is for accountability. So all of us, the partnership, we should be accountable for having the best projects that we can in accordance with our policies and values. But it's also about better results. You know, these things, I mean, it can be difficult to face a complaint and a concern from a community that things are going wrong, even when everybody is trying as best they can, but things can go wrong out there. Gabriella was saying, I mean, we have safeguards out there because there can be, even when we're trying to develop a project to protect the global environment, you know, there can be consequences. Things can be designed somehow in the wrong way, or they can just steer off course. And so it's very important for us to be receptive to and have a system in place for this. Let me just say we have about 25 cases right now in different stages, maybe in the early stage of, is it eligible for a full investigation? Is it under a full investigation? Is it going through a dispute resolution process? The cases range from issues involving safeguards. There are some cases where there's concern in protected areas that the local and traditional people out there feel like they've been somehow maybe kicked off the land, or that there's something going wrong. They're losing access to resources. You know, are the gender considerations fully considered? Have consultations been adequate as they are required to be under policy? That's another set of cases. There have been cases about land disputes. When we do things out there, there may be underlying land issues, and it's very important to be aware of those and the way to resolve issues that might come up. So those are safeguard and consultation type issues. But there are other issues about misuse of funds, you know, allegations that funds might have disappeared, or allegations of corruption. So procurement issues, you know, we have a process in the fiduciary standards to handle procurement of folks to help in the projects. Those can also have issues if there's a conflict of interest. Somebody's bidding, but somebody on the selection committee might also be related to the bidder. So these are all kinds of things that are coming up in the cases, you know, in the GEF system right now. There can be human rights issues. This has happened to eco rangers. You know, they have equipment, they have rifles, there can be an issue of, you know, overuse of power, which has come up in a couple of cases. And then Gabriella mentioned free, prior, informed consent. It's embedded into our policies for the rights to respect the rights of indigenous peoples. Just a couple of last things here. It's, you know, working through these cases and from the point of view of the GEF, what are we trying to achieve in our work? It's very important for all of us to hear the concerns. And again, the agencies are out front on this. They're the ones that receive the complaints. I facilitate all of this where I can, as a conflict resolution commissioner, to be proactive, not just to jump into a defensive mode saying, oh, you know, this means something's going wrong, but actually to listen. And this is a way to course correct, to find ways to make our projects better, to reach the outcomes in a better way. And also, it's very important to build awareness of the availability of this avenue of recourse. It's very difficult if you're way out there. Now we have cell phones, so it's easier than it used to be maybe to tap into the digital world and, you know, to these kinds of things. It's on the GEF website, but people should know, should know that there is such a system that they can go to and say, hey, we think something's not quite right about this project. Is there a way that we can ask you to do something? The last thing to mention, this is a high priority topic for council, actually. It's part of the updated standards fiduciary policy to have prompt reporting to council whenever a case comes up. So if you're an agency out there, when you have a case and you've done an initial threshold determination that the allegations are credible, you need to report that to me and to the GEF Secretariat. This is in my role as Conflict Resolution Commissioner. We report promptly to council so they can keep track of these. We do a summary of all cases every year. The policies do allow to respect confidentiality where there are investigative reasons for confidentiality, which is especially the case sometimes in the cases involving fiduciary issues and allegations of misuse of fund. So again, just a part of the important part of the GEF governance system. It's also part of this broader picture that we're talking about of being inclusive and working with stakeholders in the journey of GEF projects and programs to give them a voice in case things go wrong. Okay, that's it for me. So we can keep the slides going, and I'm not sure, let's see, who's next is, I think, Yasmin?
Yes, Peter, it's
Yeah.
Yasmin. We have the knowledge management presentation with our tools. So we can move on to her presentation on knowledge management requirements for projects and the tools that you can all access to learn more about the GEF. Yasmin, over to you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today with you. I'll talk about knowledge and learning at the GEF. We could move the slide forward. Yes, so the GEF is a knowledge institution. Why is it a knowledge institution? Because we would like our projects to be knowledge-based, and we would like our projects to generate knowledge, and of course, we would like to share this knowledge across the partnership and beyond. And we have two main objectives for knowledge and learning across the GEF. One is to improve the impact of GEF-funded projects and programs, and the other is to inform global, regional, and national policy dialogues and investment decisions. In both cases, knowledge that's being generated from our projects, we think would help in improving quality and improving information that's out there so that global environment can actually benefit from all the learning that's happening from all of the investments that we're making. If we can move forward. So how do we do this? How do we capture, share, and disseminate knowledge? As you can see, we have a pretty busy toolbox, and this toolbox contains web-based tools, which I will briefly talk about later, targeted training workshops, and you are actually involved in one of those, GEF knowledge days and fairs. In the good old days where we could be in the field before, unfortunately, COVID started, we had on-site peer-to-peer learning exercises, which we hope to go back to as soon as this pandemic is over. We have publications and videos. We have a publication called GEF Scorecard, which was mentioned earlier, which talks about our results on an annual, biannual basis. We make presentations. We organize side events at key conferences like the Conference of the Parties or international conferences on technical issues. We set up booths and exhibits at key events that are relevant to the global environment. And of course, we use social media tools and various other communication tools to spread the word about what we do, how we do it, and what can we learn from it. In addition to all of these things, the toolbox, we also have investments that directly target knowledge and learning. For example, KM platforms that are funded through our integrated programs, or other networking investments, learning investments, such as the IW Learn in the international waters area. We also have, as Gabriela mentioned, corporate initiatives that bring people together around certain topics to exchange knowledge, such as the GEF Gender Partnership. I think you will hear about these things as you kind of work with the GEF more and more, but all of this information is actually available on our website, so you can get more details as time goes on. I won't get into all the details now. Next slide, please. We want to make sure that all of our projects, as I mentioned, are knowledge-based and they generate knowledge. And for that, we have certain knowledge and learning requirements at the very beginning to make sure that project design is knowledge-rich and that projects are implemented in a way to capture, generate, and disseminate knowledge. So as you can see throughout the project cycle for full-size projects and impact programs, we have different requirements. And the basis of that requirement is a knowledge management approach. The design stage, we check when proposals come to the GEF Secretariat to make sure that the certain ingredients are included in the knowledge approach of the proposed project. And then during implementation, agencies are required, since they are implementing the projects, to submit certain updates regarding how the implementation of the knowledge and learning components are going. And at the very end, at terminal evaluation, projects are evaluated against original targets related to knowledge and learning as well as all the other components. Next slide, please. And I just put together these 8 best practice guidelines, I should say, which kind of indicate what we require our projects to have in their knowledge management approach. I won't go through them all, but this is for your reference. Basically, all of these criteria, in a way, inspire projects to have a basis of knowledge at the very beginning. So we want our projects to learn from other experiences and knowledge that's out there before they get implemented. So at the design stage, it's very important that they incorporate all the knowledge that's available on that particular topic. And then during implementation, we want our projects to employ the different tools and practices available to generate knowledge and share it properly, including a strategic communications plan. For us, that's very important because outreach is very important for later on for replication and scale up of successful GEF projects. And of course, any knowledge and learning activity in a GEF project is funded by the GEF. So the excuse of not having enough budget to allocate for knowledge and learning is not there anymore. If we can move forward. And all of this information is actually collected through our GEF portal, which is our key project data and information system. And agencies and other counterparts use this information system at every stage of the project cycle. You can basically uploading lessons learned, knowledge products that are being generated from our projects, etc., all happen here, as well as, of course, project submissions. There is a special clinic actually for you to learn more about the portal later on in the program, and I think Peter will go through it. So next slide, please. Yes, so all of the knowledge and learning tools and knowledge products that we actually produce and share are available on our website. It's the knowledge and learning page under the About tab. So if you go there, you will be seeing everything that I'm talking about today and hopefully more in the future. Next slide. And one of the key aspects of our knowledge and learning initiatives here at the GEF Secretariat is the GEF Academy. And I'm very happy to hear that many of you have already taken our Introduction to the GEF course, which is available in 3 languages. And as Gabriela mentioned, we also have a very successful Gender and Environment course, which many people outside of the GEF have actually taken as well. And these courses are available in several languages. And currently we're working on a results framework course, which will actually train people on how our results framework works. It should be available fairly soon. Next slide, please. One of the elements of our knowledge and learning, I would say, initiative here at the GEF Secretariat has been the Art of Knowledge Exchange planning guide and toolkit for practitioners and workshops. For the past 2 years, we actually were able to distribute this guide that was custom designed for the GEF. And it includes all kinds of tools and instruments you can use to facilitate knowledge exchange and learning when designing and implementing GEF investments. It includes case studies of successful knowledge exchange in specific GEF projects, so it should give you some good examples. And it's also accessible by your phone, your mobile phone, through an app called Blipar, and it's available in 4 different languages. So we're hoping that you'll make use of this tool and actually in understanding how knowledge exchange could be integrated into GEF projects. Next, please. And another actually highlight of our program is the GEF Knowledge Days and Knowledge Fairs, which are peer-to-peer learning activities during GEF Expanded Constituency workshops. And these used to happen 12, 13 times a year in different regions of the world. Of course, when we were able to do face-to-face interactions. Now we're looking to see if we can do these, through the web in a virtual basis. If so, of course, you will all be invited when we can do this. But what's interesting about this is that we have designed a method that's called learning stations, where you can, as a participant, talk to the different stakeholders of the project and partners of the project based on a different component of a project and learn from that person and ask questions, etc. So it's a self learning experience. and it's worked very well. And I want to show you a video. So if Nico, if we could show the video of GEF Knowledge Days, just so that you can get an idea of how it worked in the field. Knowledge is a primary asset of the GEF. Much of it is generated from the lessons learned and good practice in project design and implementation. To meet the knowledge and learning needs of our stakeholders, we designed a GEF Knowledge Day for hands-on learning from GEF finance projects. The event was piloted at the ECW, the Extended Constituency Workshop, in Trinidad and Tobago in March 2016.
The Knowledge Day trains participants on the key project management principles, GEF policies, and GEF processes. It also allows the participants to visit a GEF project, meet project managers and beneficiaries, and observe key lessons learned on site. Where a field visit is not possible, project managers and beneficiaries come to the participants instead. Such interactions attract participants' attention, improve learning, and facilitates further collaboration and knowledge exchange. The GEF Learning Day methodology is easily integrated into the ECWs, and it supports the GEF's country relations strategy.
Through learning stations, project managers and beneficiaries display and discuss project lessons and good practices. By visiting 5 to 8 learning stations per project, the participants get to tour the project site, learn about the key project components and respective outputs, and meet key project stakeholders, including co-financiers and local government representatives. At each station, the participants fill out the GEF Knowledge Passport by responding to questions about project management principles. At a closing session, participants exchange their takeaways, give feedback, and highlight project lessons. They also fill out an exit survey. In Trinidad, the Biodiversity Conservation, Ecotourism, and Community Development in the Arima Valley project was a good fit for the Knowledge Day visit.
The participants visited 5 stations at the Asa Wright Nature Center. They spoke with project staff and beneficiaries and practiced identifying the project management principles they had learned previously at the ECW.
A nature walk also allowed them to learn more about biodiversity conservation and ecosystem management. The pilot was successful and showed a lot of appetite among our stakeholders to learn from our projects. Building on this pilot, we replicated the GEF Knowledge Days in 12 other ECWs, and we hope to implement it in other parts of the world in the future. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. So this video was taken after the pilot of 1 year. And so we repeated it again the following year. So we've actually done it almost, I would say, 36 times around the world, Knowledge Day so far for 3 years. So we hope to do that again, hopefully, once this pandemic is over globally. But it's something that can be done at every scale. So these learning stations technique, which is actually covered in our Art of Knowledge Exchange guidebook, can be done at the local scale, at the national scale, at the regional scale, whichever you want. It can be customized to your needs, and it can also be done online. So let me move on to the last slide, the next slide, sorry, which is our good practice briefs. This is a new initiative that started last year, which is basically a set of good practices from GEF projects that are in line with GEF 7 programming directions and policy recommendations. Based on certain criteria, we had nominations from our agencies, and we selected a couple of projects that we wanted to highlight because they show how integration can be done in that context. So I would encourage you to take a look at these good practice briefs for some interesting examples of GEF investments. And I believe next is my last slide. Yes, and finally, I would like to introduce you to GEF Kaleo, which I briefly mentioned at the end of yesterday's session, if you recall. It's an innovative software developed by Kaleo Inc. So we partnered with Kaleo Inc. to create GEF Kaleo, where you can ask questions and receive immediate answers from the online database that's in GEF Kaleo. And therefore, it's an online dissemination tool that's open 24/7 and is accessible from wherever you are in the world, from your computer or from your phone. and you can ask any question you want into the system and receive an answer. If the answer is already there in the system, because we upload answers into the system all the time, you will get an immediate response. But if you're asking a new question that was never asked before, then that question goes to an expert, and that expert responds to you within 3 days, and that response is recorded in the system. So the next question who asks the same question will actually get an immediate response. So this has been active since 2017, when we launched it in 2016 as a pilot. And since 2017, we've had 564 active users across the partnerships. You do have to register. So that's why we sent you a link last night. I'm hoping that you all try to register into Kaleo. And if you haven't been able to do that, we are going to have a session that can help you register. Please go to that breakout session. We are also going to have a demo just after this session. My colleague Ramon is going to show you how Kaleo works, how you can benefit from it. And I also want to show you a quick video before I finish my presentation. Nico, if you could go to the presentation, please.
The GEF partnership needs to adapt to remain effective. We all know this. It's easy to bring in new technology or mandate a new process, but what about your people? Getting people to change is hard. Take Susan, for example. She's a GEF operations officer and responds to global environmental threats. She rolled out a process to ensure the GEF partnership works better. She trained people on new data access practices. Unfortunately for Susan, they forgot. She made information about the new data access process available, and nobody read it. Susan even made herself available to help, only to find the same questions asked over and over again. And this was just from the people who actually sought her help. Everyone else was still doing things the old way. Not good. There had to be a better way. Susan should be using Kaleo, GEF's predictive knowledge sharing application. With Kaleo, Susan could reinforce training points, make information easily accessible, and completely eliminate duplicate questions. How? When someone raises a question, GEF Kaleo provides an answer based on previously asked questions. If the answer isn't already there, the new question is routed to an expert like Susan. Kaleo captures that exchange and gets a little bit smarter. The answer is now available to everyone. Susan only has to answer the question once. Over time, GEF Kaleo becomes an expert by learning from patterns in the data and begins to share answers with new people even before they ask, giving Susan a better chance to have her new security process followed by everyone, not just the people who chose to come and ask. Kaleo speeds process, technology, and best practice adoption across the entire GEF partnership, reducing risks and increasing efficiency. Best of all, Kaleo gets everyone on the same page so we all can move forward fast. Susan, say goodbye to the old way and say hello to GEF Kaleo.
Wow.
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to say that you can access the Kaleo search bar on our website, and you'll also, once you register, you will have another way to access it. So please go ahead and use it and let us know what you think, and we're also here to help you. And I am here with as much, with the rest of the team to answer any questions you may have online as well. Please send us your questions by email, and we're happy to help. So
thank you so much, Yasmin, and for the videos. Before we go to breakouts, Paula, did you want to say a quick word, and then I'll get us into the breakouts?
Thank you very much, Peter. An update which is of relevance and interesting for everyone. Many of you have been invited to the new version of the ECWs, which have been going on now for several months. And we've actually already moved virtually to South-South collaboration initiatives. And I would like to thank all of those who have participated since September to the Stakeholder Empowerment Series programs, which offer exactly the opportunity to exchange and share information about specific projects and experience on the ground and learn about specific operational aspects. So it's been a really great experience. I would like to thank all the OFPs in particular who have already participated in the 4 SES events that we have held since September, and the many more than 12 national dialogue meetings and constituency meetings that have been held virtually since April of last year. Immediately following the pandemic, we went virtual. So thanks to the country's support program, colleagues, and to all those who have participated. And just to announce that we will have more coming up in preparation for our replenishment. So the knowledge sharing experiences have been continuing virtually. Thank you, Peter. Over to you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Paola. Thanks very much to the presenters, Gabriela and Yasmin especially. Really appreciated that. Great to see the videos get us moving a little bit in the morning too. And thanks so much, Gabriela, for covering a lot of ground. Let us now go to the breakout groups. These are on the session. We're going to allow a half an hour for them. We're just a few minutes behind, but we will keep to allow so we can have a chance to break up a little bit, go into different languages and have more of not just a follow up with questions. I see that in the chat messages, there are a number of questions, but also to allow us to have a bit of a conversation with each other to the extent we can in virtual breakout rooms, to share experiences, perspectives, to answer questions you couldn't ask. We'll have some policy experts, the presenters you've been seeing, a couple of facilitators in each group. We'll also have not just the policy and operations people you've been seeing in the last session, but also from the earlier sessions. I saw Chiz, I think you're on screen, perhaps Matthew, Avril, I hope you're there, Claude, as well as the team that's just presented. I see Ted has put onto the screen a little bit of the mechanics. Ted, would you like to come in and help us how this all happens?
Sure, thanks, Peter. So we have essentially 3 different parallel sessions by language, and we're going to launch the breakout rooms right now. They're set for 35 minutes each, and you can select basically which one you want to go in, since they're done by language. So please select, if you're French speaker, French, Spanish speaker, Spanish. And for everyone who just wants to be in the plenary, that will be conducted in English, but obviously we also have the interpretation there. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this. If anyone has any questions, they can direct them to us in chat or by email. We'll be able to help you out and assign you to a room if you can't get in there. But I think right now, let's go ahead and launch them.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ted. So please find that. I think you have to find that spot where you choose your breakout room. And now's the moment.
So people should start seeing that the breakout rooms are open, and you can select the room that you'd like to go into.
And again, please, we hope you have a chance to have some dialogue in there, ask questions, share perspectives. You'll have a couple of facilitators from the Secretariat in each one. And good luck, bon chance, buena suerte. We'll be coming back around 8:30 or a little bit after that.
Okay, people seem to be jumping in fairly quickly, so let's see how it goes.
I think in the plenary session where we are now, we can tell by the number of participants going down, right? Is that one way to see this?
Yes. Yes.
Good. So either folks are going to a breakout room or somewhere else, but hopefully we'll just stay here. I guess this is the English breakout room. So let us pause for just a minute to take our breath. And then I'm going to turn it over to our 2 facilitators that we have, Olga and Sojang. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, let's just give another minute or 2 for folks to find their way.
Yeah, I can see that people are definitely finding their way here.
And Ted, can you tell if there are the folks from the Secretariat are also in
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, we have Cyril, Susan, Jonathan, Nico in the French room right now, and in Spanish we have Pilar, Henry, Mina, William.
Okay, and hopefully a lot of folks online. Okay, well, so why don't we go ahead and start this breakout group? And for that, I would simply like to turn it over to Olga and Sojang to get us going. And thanks a lot, Ted, for making this work.
Okay, I'm going to stop the screen share here.
Yes, very good. Okay, Olga and Sojang, the floor is yours, please.
Sure. Olga, do I see you?
Yes, hello
I see
everybody.
you right there.
Yes, this is
All
an
right.
English group, so
English group.
everybody is welcome to ask questions on any topics that you heard in the last few days, because we have a lot of GEF staff and technical experts and policy experts with us in the team. And I see, I'm just checking through the list of people here.
We have about 280 people remaining in this English room. So here, let's say we only have about 30 minutes. So we can also, yesterday, Olga and I, we brainstormed how to make this room more engaging and more interactive. The idea is we would like to hear from participants. We would like to hear voice from our participants, right? So far, we've been giving too much presentation. We are the one who's been talking too much, right? Definitely, this is also, we will receive your questions. We will answer your question. However, we thought, but this is our, idea that you decide, whatever it works for you. So here I have a one OFP from very small island in Pacific, Niue, Hayden. So I think he deserves some recognition. It's a 2 a.m. in the morning. So Hayden, can you say something? Hayden is so OFP. He's fairly new to GEF. He's a OFP in Niue, in this very small island Pacific called Niue. Total population is only about 1,600 people. Right? And so there's no agency. There's no agency at all in his country. And his country has been locked down since early last year. It's been over a year. Right? We've been in contact with Hayden constantly. And he was, so he developed, before COVID, he actually developed sustainable tourism biodiversity projects, but it was before COVID. So we've been giving guidance, and we had a constant bilaterals, and he finally signed the endorsement letter. He was restructuring his tourism project. He finally signed the endorsement letter yesterday, right? So I would like to invite Hayden. Can you say something? And I'd like to invite him to share his challenges. Of course, he's facing so much challenges, but he found the solutions. Right? He was able to quickly modify work remotely with agency colleagues. And I know his internet is not not stable. Hayden, can you hear us?
Yes, sure. We hear you.
Oh, okay. Christina, can you unmute? He cannot unmute himself.
Oh, sorry. Hayden?
Hayden, yes. His name is Niue OFP, N-I-U-E.
I'm sorry, Anne?
N-I-U-E.
Oh, got him. Okay.
Perfect.
So make him co-host, right?
Oh, yes. Whatever. Yeah, that will work. Yes.
Just follow for you too.
Okay. Perfect.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I'll follow for you too. Good morning to everybody from Niue. It's just after 2 o'clock in the morning. So apologies to everybody. Good morning, good evening for wherever you are in the world. So Niue is one of the small islands in the Pacific region, and there's approximately 1,800 of us here on the island. So Niue was one of the first countries to close the borders once the COVID happened. So since February last year, our borders have been restricted, and so there's a lot of border restrictions and border controls in place to keep COVID out. So other than that, it's been a challenging period trying to get Niue's GEF 7 across the line with our concept for GEF 7. So yes, it's been a challenging period. We have no agencies on the island to undertake a lot of the consultations, international consultants. With the border restrictions, it's been very difficult to get any consultants here on the island. So there are no consultants that can make it into Niue. But we've also moved to online platforms and also making use of the social media platforms that we can use. Our internet isn't that great, but we are slowly improving in regards to that infrastructure. Just like all the other SIDS around the world, we have our challenges, and it goes hand in hand with not only slower internet, but also the cost involved and also the time differences trying to meet all the different meetings and meet with the different consultants across the world. So it has been challenging. We have a limited pool of consultants with the necessary experience and standards expected, but we make do with the online platforms, and also we make do with having local counterparts who can work with the international consultants. So it has been challenging, but we're grateful to UNEP for being patient with us during the consultations. We weren't sure on how this COVID will last or what other surprises that COVID might throw at us, but our tourism has collapsed, so that revenue really shaped up how we would develop our concept for GEF 7, and so I'm grateful to Jeff for the patience as well as the knowledge toolbox that was mentioned earlier. It just adds to learning from our global partners and our global all the other countries around the world on what their experiences are and how we can adapt that to our initiatives here on Niue. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to learning more as we go along. Thank you, SJ, and thank you to the GEF Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Hayden. Well, so now I'd like to open the floor. Anybody has any similar experience? Like, so especially that we're focusing on what kind of challenges you've been facing. How did you solve those challenges? Right? And any particular efforts you made to overcome, to make the GEF project to contribute to green recovery efforts? Right? Floor is yours.
And you can raise your hand, or you can just type your questions in a text bar. We will check both. Perhaps it's easier for people to type their questions and we will pick it up immediately.
One thing I would like to share. I got so we've been so Niue. This is at the beginning of pandemic, and we did so Niue try to develop a more their communication internet infrastructure was very bad, and they had to actually import all the equipments, router, and everything from New Zealand, Australia. So it took a while for me to be able to finally talk to him online. It is still very, very costly to use the data. Right? So there was some question that raised about PPG that perhaps we can answer. I think this is I'm also hearing similar questions from other OAPs. So I know that Niue requested PPG. So the out of PPG cost, is it can they request the data usage reimbursement? Perhaps I think we have colleagues from who can answer these questions. Then we can move on to other policy, other questions. That's good. Queen, are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Yes. So this is one particular question, and from Hayden, and also I am getting this question from other countries as well. A lot of countries now they have to work remotely. small islands, their data usage is very costly, especially for Niue. He couldn't attend day one seminar because he was not allowed to use the data from home. It's nighttime, so he had to get special permission from government. So Quinn, let us know how OFP can get reimbursement.
Yes, to answer the questions, I could say that internet usage or data usage can be considered one of the eligible expenditure under PPG, and it can be categorized as operating cost under the PPG, or even under the project itself as PMC, as a project management cost. Which is relevant to the project that our GEF funding can finance. However, of course, the such cost, internet usage or data usage should be for the project preparation activity if it is to be used under the PPG, or for the project itself for all the project activity if it is to be used under the project, the GEF funded project. Sorry, but I don't think we can reimburse for some cost like that. Meaning if the cost was already incurred before the PPG was approved, or the project is approved, right? It is already some cost, and it cannot be associated directly with the project activity or the PPG activities as such. And we have no mechanism to reimburse such cost. Yeah, I leave it at that. But like I said, the overall cost should be reasonable, right? Allocated among the project budget or the PPG budget in relation to other project expenditure category or other costs, such as the cost for consultant, or for travel, or for workshop or meeting. Yeah, I hope this helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Queen. And I see that we have a next question from Juanita from Colombia. She would like to share some experiences. Juanita, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, my name is Juanita Chavez, and I'm very new to the GEF process. I'm from the Alexander von Humboldt Institute, and we are going to be executing a GEF project soon, I hope. This is a very big project funded by GEF. For the protection of one of the ecosystems that we call páramos in the higher mountains of Colombia. So it's a very challenging and a beautiful project. So I think that COVID-19 has been a real challenge for all of us in terms of developing all these consultations with stakeholders, because those stakeholders are in the ground, right? So for us, for example, doing the consultations with the farmers and also the indigenous people living in these higher mountain places was very difficult, because before I think that they used to just bring the people to cities, to urban areas and make the consultations. But because of the pandemic, that was very difficult and impossible because people was locked down. So, well, you can imagine that in Colombia, we don't have access to internet in all these rural areas. And doing the virtual consultations was quite impossible because they didn't have internet or even the computers to access the net. So I think that in those cases, the implementing agency, in our case, UNDP, was crucial. And they were in charge of bringing even the computers to the places, doing some capacity building for those communities to use the internet. And in that way, they were able to make all these consultations online. So that was very nice because, I mean, it's not only the equipment, but also how they use it, how they organize the community to be able to participate online in those consultation processes. So that was really amazing.
Thank you, Juanita. Thank you. And it's very valuable for us to learn this because we've been also doing a lot of research how agencies and governments are adjusting to the COVID. And we've heard a lot of feedback of flexibility that agency is providing, not only flexibility, but also additional support So we are very glad to hear this and to have additional example. I see another question from Samantia. I'm not sure where she's from, just a name. And she was asking to provide a little bit more information on national dialogues. So I can answer the question quickly, and it will be, I will answer quickly, but it will be also addressed by William in the next session on country support program, because country support program manages several activities, including national dialogue. So national dialogue is an event that brings together government representatives, civil society, research institutions, private sector, to discuss and agree on national strategy and policy formulation of a particular country. So the event has to be requested by the countries. And stakeholders engage into several days of discussion and a planning process to identify priorities for GEF support. This is specifically relevant for during the first year of a funding cycle of the GEF, when country has to decide how to allocate the amount of funding they receive in a STAR into particular areas. And this is event that is available to all GEF recipient countries at the request of Operational Focal Point. And we fund it, but right now, it was done, of course, face-to-face, and right now we've been doing it during the COVID time virtually. So yes, I hope this answers the question, but we will also discuss it a little bit more during country support program session later on. Do we have other questions?
So SJ and Olha, we have 15 minutes left before we have to go back to plenary.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christina.
This is Peter. Let me just say we opened the microphones for everyone. So you can either raise the hand in the system or just come on in. We would love to hear from you.
Or if you have any, difficulties of speaking or difficulties with microphone, you're welcome to type your question in the chat.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm Anne from Kenya. I would wish to request that the discussions on knowledge product and knowledge transfer to be elaborated more, because under the GF5 project, which I am a focal implementer, there is a best practice story where the communities who lived inside the forest for 30 years, after a knowledge visit and a knowledge transfer exchange visit, they themselves voluntarily came out of the forest, and they are doing a lot of conservation, and it is an area of strong impact that should be promoted more. So I would wish if more information can be uploaded for learning from the technology that has been developed. Thank you.
And Olha, I think Yasmin is in this session, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Yes, I am here.
Perfect, Yasmin.
Yes, thank you for that. I guess the question exactly is, we would like to do more of that, or what would you like us to? What would you like me to comment on?
You'd like you to share more on the technology on knowledge exchange and knowledge product, because from the GF project we were implementing here in Kenya, it has impacted. Out of the knowledge visit, we have seen that it had a very strong positive impact to the local community on conservation. So whatever practice that is out there, if it could be shared more.
Sure, absolutely.
technology,
I'm happy to communicate with you, more directly. We have actually received a couple of requests from countries in the past, and we have looked into organizing an Art of Knowledge Exchange webinar with the OFP and staff to go over the different tools that are available. So that's definitely a feasible action we can take to help you think about, what are the different tools and instruments and how you can integrate them into your project or your program. So I'd be happy to talk to you, via email to discuss details if that's something you're interested in.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you, Yasmin, and thank you, Anne. And I see two more questions in the chat. One is about from Konstantina Toli, and the question is, how can a GEF agency hold a dual role implementing and executing? Please share some examples of prerequisites. And I will ask my colleague Min Gyang, who works specifically on the projects and works with implementing versus executing arrangements, to address that. And another question is, second one. Oh, please go ahead, Min, I'll address the second question. Or if you're not ready, the second question is, why from Mantopi Lebofa? Why are the national dialogues not mandatory? If not, how are other government ministries and CSOs expected to know about the GEF in countries other than the GEF SGP initiatives? I can answer this question. So the GEF National Dialogues is only one of the activities of many activities we have. Apart from national dialogues, we have other expanded constituency workshops, constituency meetings, introduction seminars, and stakeholder empowerment series. So we will talk about all of this during country support program, but national dialogues are specifically to help recipient countries decide how to best make use of the resources available through the GEF. So it's more of a planning exercise versus, I believe the question is asking, how does a country know about the GEF in general? And in that regard, we have a GEF operational focal point and political focal point, who are the main contacts in the country who have all of the information. So anybody can always refer to them for questions about GEF. And a part of that, we have this more larger introduction seminars like we hold today that you can join if you work on GEF projects, but you're not OFP or PFP, but you can join and learn more about GEF. And we hope to have them virtually more often than we had them in a physical realm. And we have other activities that we will talk about during CSP country support program session. You can also reach to us, to me or to my colleagues if you have specific question on learning more about GEF. So I hope that answered. And I'm checking if Yes, please.
Yeah, this is just following up on this implementation and execution arrangements. So, I fully understand and appreciate the need of having this ownership and sustainability. But I'm also wondering how we can ensure, especially the quality of the project deliverables, the implementing agency, when we, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So when there are, like kind of capacity issues, of course we can build capacity, but it will take time. So I'm just wondering, in your experience, like, this separation, it works all the time, or, what are the things we have to learn from this kind of separation of this implementation execution? That's the first question. And the second question is about, one way to deal with this, to build the capacity of NGOs, basically, how, like over the years we can improve the capacity, but then the decision who will be the executing agency is also not something like the implementation agency can make, so basically how we deal with it on the ground. I think I know there are several NGOs who are good enough, but then that is not entirely up to the implementing agency to make this decision, and how we make it happen.
Thank you very much for providing additional details in your question. And my colleague Queen, I believe you'll be answering that. Queen, are you there?
Yes, yes, I am. Yeah, it's totally correct, and totally agree with the comment just now. Yes, it is the government, actually, the government's decision to select or nominate an executing entity. It can be the government organization, right? Or it can be civil societies, academia institution, or another institution within the country as relevant and who have the capacity to execute the project under the oversight provided by the implementing agency, which is our GEF, within our 18 GEF agencies. So it is entirely a decision that is to be made by the country together with the consultation and advice from the implementing agencies. So if in case the dual role that you are mentioned here is when the GEF agencies, the 18 implementing GEF agencies also have to carry out some of the execution function that is supposed to be carried out by the government or another third party organizations. That is when we call the dual role, right, by one implementing agencies. In that case, we do have some exception rule to apply, and we would encourage an early consultation with the GEFSEC to provide context and explanation and justification for the need for the GEF agency to perform the execution role on behalf of the government, and to have some adequate segregation of duty within the implementing agency. To ensure no conflict of interest, to ensure segregation of duties as needed, because the agency are supposed to perform the oversight when the executing entity to carry out the day-to-day management and implementation of the project activities. So we would like to have as much as possible the firewall between the two functions to have adequate checks and balances for the project. I have also cut and paste some part of the guidelines, which will regard to this specific area. So I'm happy to answer any further question.
Thank you, Quinn. Yes, as the Quinn mentions, this is executing implementation separation. This is our standard. Only in a very, very exceptional circumstances. Right? If you have that kind of inquiry, that's certain inquiry, check with Olga, and then Olga will be happy to do the bilateral. So from Asia, we've been already discussing this with certain countries and see if they justify these exceptional cases. So that is very, very important. So, so next, I see that we have another question from Juanita.
Yes, thank you. Well, in the case of Colombia, as I said, the Humboldt Institute will be the executing agency and UNDP will be the implementing agency for this big GEF project. My question will be if the implementing agency will execute it themselves some part of the budget of the GEF project. But we as the executing agency, I think we are accountable for all the resource disposal of the project. How do you share that accountability before GEF? How can we also be responsible or accountable for how UNDP will be using part of the budget? Can you please explain a little bit about that? Could that be possible, and how can we do the reporting, the financial reporting?
So to answer your question, we do have some exceptional case from UNDP projects, UNDP implemented project, where UNDP is provide what they call the direct project support cost. for some of the activity that the government maybe is, have difficulty to carry out by themselves, such as recruitment of international consultants, or organizing of some of the international conference or workshop, which might be better or more efficient for UNDP to perform itself. So in that case, we do need to have a specific request from the government, which should be signed by the OP as the focal point for GEF project, right? To request a specific direct project support cost from UNDP, and we also would like to have some like estimate of how much those costs entail, and how much the UNDP project, the UNDP will retain from the project budget in the account, right, to perform such activity. So we know the fund flow very clearly, and we do understand like the budget allocation between UNDP and the government, the executing entity from the government. For all projects that will be submitted for CO endorsement since July 2020, we have already mandated a budget table with that clearly indication of who's responsible for what in the project budget. And that's one place where you can report on your intended uses of the project budget, which is rather clear, and we can approve for those exceptions as needed.
So if I am understanding you correctly, each of the agencies will report financially on their own costs after the approval of GEF for that division of budget management.
So usually the executing entity from in the ground, right, from the countryside or from the government side, will report back to UNDP, who's the account holder and held on the fund from the GEF, right? They receive from the GEF, and they will transfer the fund to your account, right, for implementing of the project. They could have some of the fund to perform those execution activity on behalf of the government. And then the agency will have to report back to the GEF for the whole project, including everything. So okay. yeah, they will have to report back to us on that.
Now, so it's the implementing agency who is reporting back to GEF.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Y cualquier cosa que necesite, Juanita, este es Carlos Manuel Rodríguez, cualquier cosa nos escribe y nosotros le damos más información, pero al final es la agencia implementadora la responsable ante la Secretaría para reportar de la agencia ejecutora. Muy contentos que Humboldt está va a ser la agencia ejecutora de los proyectos de los páramos en Colombia, y tenemos muchísimas expectativas que sea un proyecto muy exitoso. Gracias, Juanita.
Sí, doctora, así va a ser. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Carlos Manuel y Juanita. We have 45 seconds left to exit this session. It's automatic, so we cannot alter it. So unfortunately, we'll be sent back to plenary. But just a quick reminder that we're posting all our presentations. You can come back to the information that was provided on our website. And if you just type in Google GEF Introduction Seminar 2021, it will get you the first link to our website, and you will see all reference documents and also all presentations there. And you're also welcome to contact us, me, Sejong, and other people you met today, or use Kaleo, perhaps, for some of the questions that already are automated. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you,
Olga. Thank you, Sejong. Thank you to the group that I was in, which is the English group. I think we're now magically somehow, if I'm right, being rejoined, or all of us being rejoined together. Is that, yeah, we're back up to 350 yes. Plus in the same room. So welcome back, everyone. I hope you had nice breakout groups and a chance to be in a little bit of a smaller environment. We're trying this all out virtually. So now we have on the agenda a short virtual coffee break before we go into the next session, and this will be a good chance, I think, to catch our breath after the breakout rooms. So let's take a few minutes. Please, if you'd like to turn on your video, turn on your microphone and say hello. If anybody would like to share something they learned in the breakout room, this is a good chance. But let us slow down, just take a few minutes to take a breath. And hello, everybody. It's great to see you again from Washington, D.C.
And people can unmute themselves now. So.
Hola. Hola, Maure.
Hola, Nick. Hola, hola.
Gusto verte.
Igual, igual. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi from St. Lucia.
Hello, St. Lucia.
Hi, Peter. Hi, everyone.
Hello, where are you? Who's that?
I am Yani from Jakarta, Indonesia.
Hello, Yanni from Jakarta. Wow, it's great to see you.
Un
Same
saludo a
here.
todos los
Likewise.
ticos que nos acompañan hoy.
Amoye Wale from Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Yes, hello, Nigeria. Hello, Oyewole. Thank you for turning your video on, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Peter.
Hello, hello.
Puna S. Colley. I'm from the Young Liberia Women Organization. I'm from Liberia. I'm happy to be in this meeting.
Fantastic.
And I enjoy a lot.
Good. We do too. Thank you so much. From Liberia. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Suriname.
Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. The next session would be for CSO, right?
The next session is
because I've been having
coming up in a moment on the country on GEF corporate programs, the small grants program and the country support program. We're just about there. We're just taking another minute or two to stretch our bodies.
Okay.
Peter, yes, and it will include civil society organizations as well.
And of course, yes, indeed.
But notice that it is a session
I
for
keep my
all,
question. I keep my
not
question.
only for CSOs. Yeah.
Yes.
Bonjour, c'est Abi. Moi, j'ai vraiment aimé la prise en compte du genre dans les projets du FEM. Et cela du fait que dans un pays comme le Mali, les femmes interviennent beaucoup dans la gestion de l'eau, des forêts avec la coupe du bois et aussi dans la gestion des ressources naturelles, les arbres tels que le karité, l'arbre du karité, jujubier et autres. Donc, les prendre en compte dans ces projets, c'est vraiment important parce que leur action a toujours des impacts qui seront ressentis dans le cadre du changement climatique. Je vous remercie.
Excellent, Abi. Merci beaucoup. Nous sommes vraiment d'accord. Merci. Okay, anybody else want to, let me just say, we have to practice because tomorrow, we haven't done it yet. We're going to have everybody on the video so we can take a group photo. So just make sure you know where the video button is and we'll figure out a way to do that next time we gather. Okay, take a deep breath. We're going to start in about 15 seconds.
Peter, this is, it's me again, Yani. It's really come, from deep inside here. I just found out that GEF is a very remarkable institution. It's supported by a team consists of senior and knowledgeable and experienced experts. I really feel honored to be involved in this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yanni, for those very kind words. The honor is ours. We are so privileged to be together with all of you. It is the partnership and all of us together that make us what we are. So thank you for being there. And I know it must be very late in Indonesia. We had someone in one of the groups from Niue, from one of the islands. It's 2 in the morning over there. So it's wonderful to be together. Thank you very much, Yanni, for saying that. Okay, let us now continue on, since we must. We're just a few minutes behind schedule, but we will not change this section coming up because it's a very fundamental part of our work. It's on the GEF corporate programs. You all know William, I think, and I see we have also Pilar in this, and she's on screen, and I think you've seen her before. So I think I should turn it over to William and Pilar to run us through this program. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Peter.
Yes, Pilar's going ahead first. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, William. Hello, good morning, afternoon, and evening to you all again. Nico, if I can have the, yes. Okay, it's taking some time. It is my pleasure to present to you first, the GEF's approach to engaging with civil society, and second, the GEF Small Grants Program, which is a related corporate program.
Did we have a quiz to introduce this section?
Yes, we do have a quiz. Sorry, Pilar.
Okay, Olga, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, we'll open that now.
Are you going to go ahead?
Yes, we have a short ice-breaking exercise to introduce the section and also see what people remember from previous sections. Just for brief questions as a quiz. You've done these quizzes with us before, so I hope you will enjoy this one. Ted, could you please put it up? Yes, so the quiz is up and I will read the questions. By the way, my name is Olga and I'm Country Support Officer for Eastern Europe, Central Asia and Middle East. So, you know, you can, countries from these regions and any other countries also welcome to write to me or contact me with any questions they have. Just to introduce myself, and the quiz is now on the screen. The first question is, GEF projects require co-financing of 7-to-1. So 7 is co-financing and 1 is GEF financing, true or false? Please select. Second question, a requirement in the GEF policy on gender equality. So the policy on gender equality requires GEF agencies at CEO endorsement to, and choices are hire female staff, carry out a gender analysis, organize women-only events, or all of the above. And the third question is, the GEF policy on environmental and social safeguards applies only to GEF projects in and around protected areas. True or false? Please select the choice you think is appropriate. And the fourth question is about the results framework, which was addressed earlier in the previous days. And the question is, the GEF 7 results framework provides 11 core indicators and associated sub-indicators, or ensures consistency in project monitoring and reporting on expected and actual results, or actual results are measured and reported at midterm evaluation and terminal evaluation, or all of the above. So those are the questions. And I see around 100 people voted and it's climbing up. We'll give a few more minutes. We have 300 people in the room. So about half of the people already voted. So we'll give 1 or 2 more minutes for others to choose their answers.
Maybe you can give a 10-second countdown, Olga, so we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great idea. So 10 seconds countdown is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we have more than half of the people voted, and I am ending polling and sharing results with everybody. So you see results on the screen. And the first question, GEF projects require co-financing of 7-to-1. The answer is false. And Just to let you know that 7 to 1 is a GEF inspirational goal. It's not an obligation, it's our inspirational goal as organization to have this ratio on global or portfolio level for all of the countries and all of the projects. But it's not an individual country level requirement by no means. So your COVID-19 in a specific project will depend on that project and on, you know, agencies and areas that project is dealing with. The second question, a key requirement in GEF policy on gender equality requires GEF agencies at CEO endorsement to, and the answer is B, carry out the gender analysis. And policy on gender equality requires that agencies provide a gender analysis at the beginning of the project for each project. And gender analysis means examination or critical examination of how differences in gender norms, roles, activities, and opportunities between affect men, women, girls, and boys in certain situation or context. So that's what has to be done in the beginning of every project. And a third question, this GEF policy on environmental and social safeguards applies only to GEF projects in and around protected areas, is false. The catch here was protected areas because this policy applies to all projects and it sets mandatory requirements for identifying and addressing environmental social risks and impacts in all GEF financed projects and programs. And the fourth question, the GEF results framework. The answer is all of the above. So yes, it provides 11 core indicators and every core indicator has several associated sub-indicators. With it, it also ensures consistency in project monitoring and reporting and unexpected and actual results. And it also, actual results are measured and reported at midterm evaluation and terminal evaluation. So yes, all of the above, and that's it for mini quiz. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Olga. Thanks everybody for participating in the quiz and doing so well. And now we go back to Pilar. I think it's Pilar, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's me, Peter. Okay, sorry about that, but thank you, Olga, for that. Okay, again, it's my pleasure to present to you two topics, actually, which are interrelated. First, the approach to engaging with civil society, and second, the GEF Small Grants Program, which is a corporate program. Next, please. First, before I start, I would like to maybe tell you what we mean by GEF, at the GEF by civil society. The definition of civil society is included in the policy on stakeholder engagement, which I presented yesterday in our last session. And then civil society comprises non-state actors, including not-for-profit organizations, NGOs, farmers, women, the scientific and technical community, youth and children, indigenous peoples and their communities, business and industry workers and trade unions. So as you can see, it's a very broad definition. Next slide, please. The role of civil society in GEF's operations has evolved since the inception of the GEF. From the very early days, the GEF opened space for CSOs to participate in their biannual meetings of the council and recognize the CSOs' voices, that they would bring the valuable views from the people on the ground. And also CSOs have been participating in GEF's projects from the design to execution to monitoring. And in this slide, you can see some of the milestones in terms of engagement of civil society in the GEF. That includes the launch of the GEF Small Grants Program in 1992 as the only dedicated funding window for civil society, and which I will talk to you in more detail in a little while. The creation of the GEF CSO network in 1995, which is an independent network of civil society organizations working in the GEF's focal areas. Another thing that I wanted to mention as a milestone in 2011, when the GEF accredited 3 NGOs as GEF agencies, expanded the GEF partnership. These are CI, WWF, and IUCN. And finally, 2017 actually was a big year for CSOs in the GEF and their engagement. when Council approved an updated vision to enhance engagement with civil society, and it also approved the policies on stakeholder engagement and gender equality. Next slide, please. So why is the partnership with civil society so important to the GEF? I already talked about the value of CSOs when I was talking about the policy on stakeholder engagement. Civil society participation really strengthens country ownership and accountability. In addition, here you can see some of the roles that have been played by CSOs in the GEF partnership, from project executors to co-executors. CSOs also bring in co-financing, not only in kind, but also in funding, cash. They provide expert local knowledge. One important role is that they influence advocacy and policy. And as I mentioned, they're also GEF agencies. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, in 2017, after a process led by an ad hoc working group of GEF Council members, where they consulted with civil society, with the CSO network, and other GEF stakeholders, the GEF Council approved an updated vision for enhancing the engagement of CSOs in the GEF. This updated vision recognized the value of CSOs, particularly in their advisory capacity to the GEF Council in terms of institutional policies and guidelines, and also the formulation of strategies. This updated vision also recognized the value of the GEF CSO network and its role in advocacy and outreach to civil society at the global level. Next slide, please. I wanted to bring to your attention some current opportunities for engagement of civil society organizations at the country, regional, and global levels, from projects and programs to influencing policy to capacity development and knowledge learning. I'm going to stop here and maybe read them out actually for our interpreters to translate into Spanish and French for our CSO colleagues participating. So at the country level, we have consultations on GEF program and projects, also free, prior, and informed consent for indigenous peoples. And this is all guided by our policies and guidelines in terms of defining and designing projects and programs. As I mentioned, CSOs have the opportunity to participate in projects as executors and co-executors, but also leveraging co-financing. The GEF Small Grants Program is the only funding window dedicated for civil society, which I will talk in a moment, but also under the Country Support Program, CSOs have participated in the national dialogues at the country level. At the regional level and global level, for the regional level, the Country Support Program has also financed expanded constituency workshops, and we have had dedicated sessions on stakeholder engagement and civil society engagement, and many CSOs have participated in those ECWs. In addition, the GEF CSO network also assembles CSOs working in the GEF's relevant areas. At the global level, in terms of decision-making, CSOs are represented in all council meetings, bringing the voices from the field to provide inputs at each agenda item of the council. We also hold consultations with CSOs prior to every council meeting on a topic that is of relevance to CSOs. Every 4 years during the GEF Assembly, we also organize together with CSOs a civil society forum. And also, which is very important in terms of the replenishment process, 2 CSOs represent the voices of CSOs from developed and developing countries in the negotiation during the replenishment process. We also have other consultations in terms of policy formulation and strategy with CSOs. They also participate in our working groups, in our GEF Gender Partnership, in the KM Advisory Group. And as Peter was mentioning, they also have access to our grievance mechanism, which is the conflict resolution that is led by Peter as Conflict Resolution Commissioner. Finally, knowledge and learning. We are conducting virtual knowledge and learning with CSOs. We started South to South Exchange in the Art of Knowledge Exchange last November 2020. And we're going to continue conducting these virtual knowledge and learning activities. Next slide, please. With that, now I want to talk about the GEF Small Grants Program, which is a corporate program of the GEF currently implemented by UNDP. Like the country support program, the SGP is replenished every 4 years, and its strategic and programming priorities are discussed and agreed during the replenishment process. The SGP, as I've mentioned, is the only granting window dedicated to providing grants for CSOs and community-based organizations, and it is a key component of GEF's overall strategy to address global environmental degradation by mobilizing civil society and community action to implement innovative solutions, while also improving livelihoods and sustainable development in the countries where the SGP works. Next slide, please. Since 1992, you can see that the SGP has expanded from 33 countries in the pilot phase to currently 128 countries in developing countries and economies in transition. Next slide, please. The GEF works on the principle of universal access, meaning that all eligible countries can have access to the program. Here, this is the current geographic coverage of the SGP, 128 countries in GEF 7, of which 37 are SIDS and 40 are LDCs. There are still about 19 eligible countries that are not yet part of the program, and UNDP as implementing agency is working on ensuring that all countries that want to join have an opportunity to do so. Next slide, please. In terms of programming priorities for GEF 7, the SGP has focused on a landscape seascape approach to its grant making, and also on having these strategic programs, which, as you can see, follow similar focus of the overall GEF. So we have 4 strategic initiatives and also something called Beyond Grant Making. Again, for the sake of the interpreters, please go back. The previous slide. The strategic initiatives are sustainable agriculture and food security, low carbon energy access benefits, local to global coalitions in chemicals and waste management, catalyzing sustainable urban development. And beyond grant making, like the platform to engage CSOs in a dialogue with the governments and private sector. Next slide, please. These are the level of granting that CSOs and CBOs can access. Up to 50,000 for a normal grant. They can also access up to $5,000 to help with the preparation of the grant. And also some strategic grants that up to 150,000 for projects that are comprehensive and address strategic priorities. And also global and regional grants, about 250,000 to 500,000 for larger coverage and impact. Those are the exception. In general, the average grant is about $25,000. Next slide, please. How does the SGP work? It's led by a country program strategy that is consulted and formulated at the national level and follow also national priorities. Then you have country program teams, which are basically 2 staff working, the national coordinator and an assistant. You have a national steering committee that is majority CSO, where also the OFP participates, but it's majority CSO that makes a decision about the grants. And then based on a landscape seascape approach, you have the different grants at the local level. And that is my last slide. Then I will give the floor now to William to talk about the country support program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pilar. William, please go ahead, and then we'll have some time for questions following the two sets of presentations.
Thank you very much, Pilar and Peter. The country support program is basically aimed, as the name indicates, to support the countries, but it's not the institution, it's the people, right? The people, and particularly those who work directly with GEF projects. So our main point of contact, as has been said many times, are the GEF focal points, the political and the operational focal point with whom we have general contact. But of course, we have broadened that over time to expand participation. So we can go to the next slide. It's the only slide I'm going to show because it's all contained there. The objective is to provide all recipient countries with the assistance and capacity building that we can to make better use of the resources available through the GEF, including support for programming. So that is why we have a country relations team that runs this country support program. And there we have distributed the regions. So for example, we have Susan in Sub-Saharan Africa. We have Olga, she's already mentioned Deka, and Middle East and North Africa. Sejong, who is in charge of Asia and the Pacific. And I do Latin America, the Caribbean, and serves a focal point for donors when they have, for developed countries, I should say, when they have questions. So that's basically the team. And then, of course, we have a very strong support team to organize all these events that was presented earlier in this seminar. And that's what we call the country relations team. And one of our tasks is to run this country support program. So this idea of supporting countries began already in GEF 2, so quite a few years ago. It was modest beginnings where we had some workshops, we had national dialogues. We also sometimes supported constituencies. But as from GEF 5, the Secretariat took over the leadership of this program, and it was increased to a number of activities which are summarized right there. So you've heard about the expanded constituency workshops. These were the 13 workshops we were used to doing every year, where we call them expanded because it was not only the GEF focal points, but we also brought the convention focal points, as well as two representatives of civil society to each of these workshops. The logic was that not only do the GEF focal points need to know us better, but also the focal points in the countries who deal with the conventions that the GEF supports, or for which the GEF is the financial mechanism, or a financial mechanism, or an operational partner of the financial mechanism, depending on the language used in each one of those conventions. And civil society, because as we have shown, I think, throughout all the work, and as Pilar highlighted just now, without civil society, we're not going to have the same impact. And they bring capacity and all the abilities that we know they have. So in these expanded constituency workshops, we try to make them work as a team, sit as a team around table, and work as a team. So they get to know each other better. It's in large bureaucracies, many times people are working on similar issues, but don't interact sometimes, because that's how life is. And bringing them together with civil society in the ECWs turned out to be very useful. So we did 3 of those per constituency grouping and per replenishment period. And we covered all sorts of topics, from the very basics, as we're covering in this seminar, to more specific issues, like what are the best practices in project administration, or what are best ways of doing knowledge exchange, a number of so we say, mini workshops within the workshops themselves. We've also had developed over time from just presentations to including games, and very usefully, we always had a visit to a project in whichever country we were holding these workshops. But those also evolved from being, a nice day out with a bit of instruction on a project to actual knowledge days, as Yasmin presented earlier. And this shows that these activities have been growing and have evolved and hopefully improved over time. So those are the ECWs. Then we have another one called National Dialogues. It has evolved also from the past, because originally it was aimed at mainstreaming the idea of environment into national decision-making. Now that is pretty much up to date. So these national dialogues have served for programming. So at the beginning of a GEF cycle, a number of countries have wanted to have these national dialogues where they bring the stakeholders together and they discuss what are the best ideas for financing from the GEF, how to use the GEF money and resources available to the best advantage. But they've also discussed national policies, they've validated policies, they've served to disseminate knowledge about what the country wants to achieve in the area of the environment and development. I want to stress that these national dialogues are not compulsory. They are done at the request of the focal point. And we've done essentially about 40 a year. So as you see, it's about a third of the eligible countries have chosen to use these national dialogues. They are designed to be flexible, so they can use for multiple purposes. And that's why we designed them based on the request that comes in from the focal points. Let me jump to constituency meetings. The constituency meetings are really very useful because, as you know, and we discussed earlier, the council has 32 seats. Those seats are occupied by a person representing a constituency. Obviously, that person comes from one of the countries in the constituency, but they are there because they are considered to be a good representative for the constituency. And before each meeting, the Secretariat publishes all the documents and draft decisions that are going to be considered at the council. And it's necessary for, and useful, I think, for the council members and the alternate council members to hear from their constituency members what are their views on those documents so that they can represent them better. So we have financed over time these constituency meetings. We are authorized to finance up to 2 a year, one before each council meeting. Not all constituencies meet twice a year, so they choose again at the request of the council member when it is they want to meet. The pre-council meetings actually refer to a meeting of the council members of the recipient countries, meet the day before the council to, again, exchange amongst themselves the views. Okay, each one of them brings the views of their constituency. Now, as recipients, what do we want to say? Are the things that we share? Are the things that we don't share? Can we support each other when we come to the meetings? And it's a bit of a counterpart to the developed countries who also have their own pre-council meeting to discuss these issues amongst themselves. And the newest component of the country support program, which Paola mentioned earlier today, are the stakeholder empowerment series. Actually, the COVID has encouraged us to do things differently from the past. Perhaps we would have evolved there naturally, but we've done it much faster, and we've been forced to do it in an accelerated fashion. And these are, I wouldn't say the equivalent of the expanded constituency workshops, but they are a part of it because we've tried to concentrate them on fewer topics, normally one topic, because we can't make these SESs very, very long, but a topic that is of interest. We've also tried to make these SESs different in the sense that as it's virtual, we don't concentrate only on one or two constituencies coming together, but we've done it across continents so that there can be an exchange of experiences and knowledge and understanding from, for example, we did one between Latin America, who all speak Spanish, and Spanish and Portuguese, I mustn't forget Brazil, and the Spanish and Portuguese speakers from Africa. So they had a discussion on one of the issues. We also did one that included Asian and African countries. So this tool, which I'm sure we will continue to develop and incorporate to the country support program of GEF 8, has shown that we can achieve different goals and that we can also get this interaction and collaboration across constituencies. Within constituencies, it's pretty strong. It's developed over time. This will allow us, hopefully, and allow participants, more importantly than us, it's not the Secretariat, it's obviously the countries and their focal points who can come together and understand each other better and learn from each other better. So what's the future? In GEF 8, we are going to present to the donors as part of the replenishment negotiation, an upgraded, I would call it, or evolved plan for the country support program. We're holding a number of consultations with all the regions, and we've also sent out a the poll, a very simple one. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes to fill a survey. Olga has put the link up on the chat, which I would encourage all of you to go in, because we've done a lot of the design of the components of the country support program a little bit from the point of view of what we have perceived and what we have heard from the Secretariat. But I think it's time to really go out and ask all participants, okay, what can we do better? Are there components that are missing? Can we offer different training than what we've done so far? What do you need from us? And the more we can get from all of you on what do you need from the point of the country support program, the better we will be able to design it for GEF8, and the better will we be able to serve the countries that we support and who are members of the GEF. So very quickly, this is what the country support program tries to do, what its background is, where it's coming from, and what its components currently are. I think in the area of knowledge management, we will probably be evolving further too. Like there's an idea to have a platform where the focal points can exchange their knowledge and experience, etc. We're designing it. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to work. We don't know yet, but we're developing this idea so that we become a true global family. There's only one environment in the world, and therefore, in the same way that we program in an integrated fashion to ensure that each component of what we do benefits the global environment, the coming together of all the constituencies will hopefully lead in that direction. It doesn't mean we're going to have multitudinal meetings every time, but it means that we start knowing each other better, exchanging experiences and learning from each other in a way that we have not done before. And this is what we want to try to do with a country support program in the future. So thank you very much for your attention. Back to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, William. Thank you very much, Pilar. Thanks very much for that last image of a global family working for the global environment. It's very much, I think, in line with our discussions here in these sessions. Now we have a good amount of time for questions and answers and discussion. I would say a good half an hour. These can be questions to Pilar and to William on the last topics on the country support program and the engagement with civil society and the small grants program. We will also, of course, if you would like to, from the earlier sessions right before the breaks on gender equality, on safeguards, and on knowledge sharing and management. We had some chance to answer questions during the breakout groups, but if you would like to follow up, this is also a wonderful opportunity. And William, you're going to have to put on your second hat or third, perhaps, to watch for questions. Please, if you can, send questions by email to William. You may also register, of course, notes or thoughts on the chat box. So let me turn it over to William to both handle questions and also tell us what they are.
Thank you very much, Peter. Yes, I'm glad to do that. And people have been putting their questions in the chat, and that seems to be working quite well. The first one I see actually is for Pilar. What can we do if the coordination between CSO, GEF agency, and SGP is poor? Would you like to tackle that one, Pilar?
Sure, I would like to maybe learn a bit more about this particular case. So I am just typing now on, somebody needs to mute. Sorry. So I'm going to type now my email address. Please feel free to contact me directly, and maybe I can look into this particular issue. But we here at the GEF Secretary are also facilitators in these cases, so I can also point you to the right people at UNDP. So please, here's my email address.
So thank you, Pilar. So let me go to the next one that says, how are constituencies formed? When the GEF instrument was negotiated, the negotiators decided there would be 32 seats. 14 are for developed countries, 16 are for developing countries, and 2 for economies in transition. In the case of the recipient, shall we say, of developing countries, those seats were distributed regionally. So you have 4 in Latin America, and then you have what is it, 6 and 6, I think, in Africa and Asia. And they were then, shall we say, subdivided regionally. So just like in Latin America, you have one where you have Brazil, Ecuador, and Colombia. Then you have another one that is what we call the Southern Cone, that's the countries to the south. Then you have another with Mexico, Central America, and Venezuela, and you have the Caribbean. So there you have your 4. In Africa, they followed more or less the regions of Africa. In the case of Asia, it was similar, with the Pacific Islands forming their own. It's interesting to note that in the developing countries, there are only 2 seats that are single country constituencies. That's China and Iran. On the developed country side, the seats were distributed on the basis of contributions. So the countries with the highest level of contribution got single country seats, and the other developed countries who were joining, they joined into groupings of countries. And how is the original distribution was based on their contributions to the World Bank, the IDA 10 contributions, because remember, the pilot phase was an initiative inside the World Bank. It became, so we say, autonomous after the restructuring. And that distribution has remained more or less equal, because there has been a more or less understanding, shall we say, among the donors about what the proportion is that they're going to contribute to the funding of the GEF, and therefore the composition of the seats has remained pretty much the same, maybe one change over time. And this is also visible in the voting system of the GEF, although we never use it, thank goodness, because it was made difficult on purpose, so it wasn't necessary, and we would work on the basis of consensus. But you can also see it reflected there. So what's next? I did the criteria one. When GEF agencies approaches a country or ministry for a project or field of study, should be coming from the ministry country itself or from the agency itself? Well, I'll have a go at that one, but any of my colleagues can jump in. Of course, we want projects to be owned, right? So there has to be country ownership. So it would be good that the ideas come mainly from the countryside of this relationship. But that doesn't mean that agencies that are active in a country or that have ideas could go and talk to the authorities of the country and come up with a good idea for a project. So this is not an either or question, but a team effort. The GEF works as a partnership, and that is why we do it together. Does anybody else want to complement that? If you wish, please just jump in. Otherwise, the next question is, what does it mean that a country has been graduated in terms of SGP? Actually, we don't talk about graduated, we talk about upgraded, but I'll let Pilar answer that question.
Yes, actually, the 2 next questions are related to the SGP, so I will answer them. Yeah, upgraded country programs. This is a terminology that was used to basically, for those countries that had been long with the program, that had a lot of capacity already, that they had invested already big amounts of money on grants, and to give space to other countries that were coming new to the program, the term upgraded meant that those countries with more capacity, with more investments, would be upgraded, meaning that they would need to be funded by the STAR allocation. So the operational focal points and the governments would allocate a certain portion of their STAR to finance these programs. In that way, the other countries that benefit from a core allocation, which I explained is set at the replenishment level, could finance more countries. So there are right now 2 types of countries. Ones that are upgraded. Right now there are 16 of those countries that only benefit from STAR allocations, and there are 122 countries that, 112 countries that benefit from the core or the global funding. So it is basically just a division in terms of where the funding comes from, but for other purposes, there are treated exactly the same. I hope that was clear. It's a bit complicated. Now, the next question is about, yesterday we had a question that we said we were going to address today. UNDP as implementing agency for SGP, if you have examples where other implementing agencies are implementing small grants programs. Right now, as I said, currently, the only implementing agency of the small grants program is UNDP. That doesn't mean that in the future, other implementing agencies can maybe implement the program, but that's the way it is right now. So there's no other examples of other implementing agencies implementing the small grants program. However, there are executing agencies. As you remember, there are difference between implementing agencies and executing agencies. There are executing agencies of the small grants program that are NGOs in Brazil, for example, in India. So even though the implementing agency is UNDP, other executing agencies can be NGOs and other type of institutions and organizations. Thank you, William. I think that's from those two questions.
All right, let's move on. Is there any instruction from the GEF to make a country program containing a list of projects regarding climate issues for each countries? Well, I don't think there's anything in terms of an instruction, but of course, countries can put together a program. But perhaps one of the colleagues wants to jump in on this one. Right, I see none. So let's move on. Gustavo has also answered, that the origins of the projects could come from a number of sources, and a good point he stresses is that the project proposals need to reflect country priorities and alignment with country commitments to the different conventions. Everybody must keep this in mind. Of course, the production of global environmental benefits, which is the key objective of this organization, is a part of that. And following the strategies that the GEF has for any replenishment period is the way to do that. So let's see the next one. The question, how can GEF Secretariat help assist GCN or CSOs in general to be more involved? Pilar, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, the question is, how can the GEF Secretariat help and assist the GEF CSO network and CSOs in general to be more active and involved at the local, regional, and national levels? How can we promote a better relationship with agencies, IGP? So I did explain about the different things that the GEF Secretariat actually is conducting, under the country support program, but also under our policies in terms of trying to engage CSOs more actively in the GEF at the different levels, at the global level, giving them space to participate at the council meetings and provide inputs to this decision-making body as well. Also conducting consultations with CSOs and with the CSO network in terms of, the topics selected for just prior to council, but also in general in the formulation of policies and strategies. We conduct consultations on every single policy with CSOs and with the GEF CSO network. At the national level, like I said, we have the policies and the guidelines where the government officials also engage with CSOs in each of the projects and programs. There is a process of consultations that are taking place. And also the final way is in our knowledge and learning activities that we conduct with CSOs and with the CSO network. Particularly with the CSO network, we have monthly meetings with the coordination committee. They're engaged in all our activities. And, I would like to hear more. You already have my email. So if you have any more ideas of how we can improve this, I would gladly receive your inputs and suggestions. Thank you. I'm going to put again my email address.
Thank you, Pilar. So following the question from Yvette, in fact, the country support program focuses all the time on the operational focal points. What we have tried to do is expand the reach so that we have other people who are involved in the teams to at the national level to have access to the information and the training that the GEF and the understanding that the GEF that can be provided. In terms of special focus for the operational focal points, you have the country officers who are your counterpart. Any question you have, we'll call you up on the phone, we'll exchange emails. It doesn't matter the time, you know, if we have a big time difference, we'll do it at night or in the morning, whenever it's necessary to be able to talk to you and give you the assistance you need. Of course, in our region of the Americas, it's easy because we have more or less the same time. So please feel free to contact me at any time. The national dialogue continue to be a tool, as I mentioned. You know, if you wish to have a national dialogue, we can certainly help you organize one, and even virtually we can do it. So we have had a few last year that were done virtually, and they can work quite well. The country resolution officer, we've probably, I assume you mean that is for a resolution of controversies or disputes. That is Peter Lalas has that role, as he explained earlier. You have his email, you can contact him directly or through me. If you write to me, I will certainly pass the message on to him, and then he can talk to you directly and help you with any issue that you may have. So I hope that answers those questions. The voting system. Well, the GEF always operates on consensus level, and it has always managed to achieve consensus. But if you're interested in knowing, basically it's a double majority voting system. So in the event that we ever did have to vote, we have a system set up where every country has to vote. So each council member will be announcing the vote of each one of the countries he or she is representing. And that vote will be counted in one column, the number. So we're 184, so you would see that number going up. And on the other one, you would see the cumulative contributions of any country who has been a donor at any time. So each vote has a value of 1 in the numbers and a value equivalent to the cumulative contributions to the GEF Trust Fund over the years that has been done. And to be able to have an affirmative answer, you have to get 60% in both columns. So 60% of the membership and 60% of the contributions. So I hope that explains it. As you see, it is not only complicated, but very difficult to achieve the double majority of 60%. And I think that's a very good system because it encourages us also always to find solutions that are consensual. And the world environment, if you don't do it by consensus, you know, you're weaker than you would be otherwise. So the system, I think, has achieved the double goal. Let's move on to the next one. I think this one refers more to the star allocation because it's on the basis of what scale does the GEF distribute its support to countries under the projects for biodiversity. So I guess this is I'm guessing in my own personal translation of this French question that it refers to how is the star designed in terms of biodiversity. So I don't know if Sonia, you want to say something about that?
Yes, here I am. So the star allocation system for biodiversity, but actually in general, is made up of 3 main indices. So we have the GEF Benefits Index, which is specific to each of the star focal areas, biodiversity being one of those. Then we have the GEF Performance Index, and then we have a GDP Index. So with respect to biodiversity, the biodiversity index has 2 main subcomponents. One is marine and one is terrestrial. And these are weighted, the marine index is weighted to 25%, the terrestrial index is weighted to 75%. And then that cycles up to the overall indices, which when paired with the other 2, the country performance index and the GDP index, comes together in a dynamic system that we simulate and apply certain parameters and different weightings and variables to arrive at the final allocation. What I can do, if you're particularly interested in the biodiversity allocation, is I can send you, I'll put the link in the chat to the STAR policy, which explains in detail the formulation of the biodiversity index in particular. And I also put my email in the chat in case you want any further information. So I hope that helps. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And then, to become a GEF executing agency, do CSOs need to get accreditation from GEFSEC? The answer is no. Executing agencies basically execute either the full project or part of the project, a component of the project, and therefore they work with the government and the implementing agencies. Next one, that's a clarification that Gustavo has sent, complementing a previous answer. So hopefully you can read it. I think that's quite clear. Then, if we are a member of the CSO network, do we have to share our programs and projects directly with GEF Global? I guess the answer is no. You work as part of the GEF network, of the GEF CSO network in the context of the GEF, but you don't have to share all your programs, at least not in the way you described it here. Pilar, is that correct?
Correct, yeah, and I'm sorry, but I don't really understand very well the question.
Okay. So Laura has said that she agrees that the national dialogues could be useful at any time. Jonathan has answered the question on executing agencies. Sorry, I didn't see that before. E-courses are very good. Are there any other e-courses, more specific focal areas? Well, I guess maybe Jasmine wants to say something about that, but in general, the idea is that we would develop further e-courses as we go along, and that we find are of general interest. You want to add anything to that, Jasmine?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, William. Yes, we are working to expand the GEF Academy and the content and the scope of the e-courses. Except, as you know, the intro to GEF e-course is very, I would say, it's a big course. It's got a lot of information. It's quite dense. It's long, etc. So we're trying to be a little bit more nimble with our courses so that people can, take as much as what they need. And in the different specific areas. In fact, I just wrote in the chat that we are looking into bite-sized training courses on specific topics, possibly relevant to specific regions and specific partners or stakeholders. So if you have any ideas, if you have any specific particular wishes, please let us know. But we would be going through our portfolio and pulling out what's critical and create these smaller courses. The one big course that's coming actually soon is the results framework course. It should be ready in a month or so on our website in various languages. So please be on the lookout for that. But any ideas as to what you would like us to provide as training material, please let us know and we will try to prioritize that.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. And so I think we've come, at least for now, to the end of the questions. And before I hand it back to Peter, I just have to apologize to the interpreters because I speak far too fast. And as a former interpreter, I know that makes your job very difficult. So thank you for your support and for putting up with my speed. So let me go back to Peter.
Well, thank you very much, William. Thanks, William and Pilar, Yasmin also, all those answering the questions. Thanks very much to all those asking the questions. And let me also thank and apologize to the interpreters myself. I'm sure I'm in the same category. So let me try and follow the slower pace, so to help make sure it's a bit easier on the interpretation side. We're making very good time. Thanks, everyone. We're on the schedule. What I'd like to do before turning to the next session is just let me do I'll try to do a short recap from the top of the day so far to keep it fresh in our minds, and also to express a thanks to the presenters before the break as well. We began today continuing this segment on how to design and implement a project. We began in our continuation of the discussion of policies with Gabriela. She first started with the GEF policy and work on gender and gender equality. She walked us through the history, the updated policy in 2017. It was part of the evolution from doing no harm to doing good, highlighted for us the importance of this effort for the GEF mission and for gender equality itself. As also came out in a very nice discussion over the virtual coffee. Thank you very much for that coming in from out there in our partnership to reinforce those points in individual situations. Gabriela helped us review how we do it, how we integrate a gender responsive approach into the project and program cycle, and what happens at different phases of this car ride that we're going along in the GEF project cycle. And let me just say, we truly appreciate the collective effort and action on this very important priority of our work. It really is a collective effort. We're making enormous progress. We still have much to do, and it's there in the policy and the guidelines. So thank you for that, Gabriela, and for your leadership on that. Gabriela then took us to the safeguards policy. This is another one of our core policies on how we identify and address social and environmental risks in projects, so risks to people and nature. As she discussed, as we also mentioned in the conflict resolution segment, things can go wrong out there, or things can fall short of what our aspirations are in terms of consultations, working with indigenous peoples, respecting the rights of peoples, even when we're aiming for a good result in our projects, which of course is what we're doing. And so the safeguards policy gives us a framework to analyze those, what we need to follow up to, how to improve results. It's not a static exercise. There's this idea of you identify and assess, you find significant impacts, you develop actions to prevent, to reduce, and to go forward in a way that adjusts. I remember Gabriela saying we should be nimble in doing that. It's very important to consult with all the stakeholders. And there are some very important new elements in our safeguards policy. She mentioned a few. There's one on disability inclusion, which I think is a very important new, and which we all think is a very important new development. Gender-based violence is in there, this problem that comes up in projects and in institutions. And another aspect, community health, is in the updated safeguards policy. And that, of course, maybe has a bit of an echo of this time that we're in the pandemic. The idea, safeguards and gender equality, better, more inclusive, stronger projects in line with our values. We then went to Yasmin, and Yasmin just came back in and reminded us a little bit on the importance of the work and the type of work we're doing for knowledge sharing and lessons learned and knowledge management in the partnership. This is another priority from beginning much earlier in the GEF history and going forward. We saw a couple of videos. Yasmin walked us through the different types of initiatives that we're doing in knowledge management. It was nice to see ourselves in all of that. I noticed a great appetite in one of the breakout rooms for more information and more action on the knowledge effort, the Knowledge Academy that Yasmin just mentioned. And also the work there was fundamental in putting together the homework, the advanced information that we have all benefited from so much. We will have a little bit more on Kaleo as we go into the next session. Let me just last pay a tribute and a thanks to Pilar and William. Pilar started us off just after the coffee breaks with a history of our stakeholder engagement, which is she's mentioned is of course embedded or enshrined in the GEF instrument, and it's a part of the DNA of the partnership. She walked us through the trajectory of stakeholder engagement over time and the different types of engagement opportunities at different levels of the work in the partnership, which is also coming out of the updated vision that we recently developed for greater engagement, which we developed all together with all of you. Pilar was a leader in that, but a critical part of this is not only what we have in place, but how we develop it. And we want to walk that walk that talk, as well as be in the right place on it. And then Pilar also walked us through the small grants program, which is of the GEF, grants to civil society organizations and communities. If I may say so, I would refer to it as a flagship program of the partnership. It brings us together. It helps our work reach out much more broadly to communities, to civil society. And I think what Pilar was saying is it's a very big part of how we bring change in this world in support of our mission. And then William, lastly, walked us through the wonderful country support program, which he has led over many generations of the GEF. Sorry, William, not many generations, but indeed, which is designed to assist and support recipient countries through many different types of activities, the expanded constituency workshops, the national dialogues. It's there to build our capacity together. We talked about this, Carlos Manuel highlighted this on the first day, building our capacity, a chance for real dialogue on the issues and the priorities. It's a two-way and multi-way conversation and dialogue to empower ourselves, to empower stakeholders, to learn about priorities on the ground. I've been to many of these sessions when we were not doing them virtually. They're terrific sessions, and they're a way for the partnership to build, to be stronger together. And we are looking ahead, as William, this is where we're going to the replenishment in GEF 8. What are some opportunities to build on the power of this program to achieve the objectives we want to achieve? And our CEO has mentioned a couple of ideas in that. So I'm sure we'll be coming back for that to reach higher impact together with things like this wonderful country support program. So let us see, it is now 9:50. Okay, we're just about right on time to move into our next session. So we have 3 topics in here, and let me just mention another way of let's say, labeling these next 3 topics. We thought about it a little bit yesterday. We can call them gateways to the GEF. So these are kind of system gateways to the GEF's work and all the things that we've been talking about. The first one will be on Kaleo, which Yasmin will talk to us about. The second one is on the GEF website. We have Alua, who I will introduce in a few moments. So you haven't met yet. She's from our communications team in the GEF Secretariat. And the last one will say a few words about the GEF portal. So Yasmin, are you there? Can you take us away?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Peter. Actually, this presentation is going to be made by my colleague Ramon. It's going to be a demonstration of how the Kaleo system works once you register, how you can use it, how you can look at what questions you asked, how what the answers you received. You basically create your own little knowledge base within Kaleo regarding the GEF. So you can always go back and look at your questions and answers and your little knowledge base yourself. I would like to say that my colleague Ramon, who's been with us for many, many years at the GEF, will soon be retiring, and his work on Kaleo will be taken over by my colleague Christina, who is actually very skillfully managing this whole session today, and of course the whole week. So I just wanted you to be aware, if you have any questions until the end of March, please contact Ramon, but after that, please contact Christina and myself. So Ramon, please go ahead with this demonstration. Thank you.
And Ramon, as you come in, let me just supplement that introduction. I just want to pay a tribute to Ramon. Ramon is in a way like William. He's been with us since the beginning, and he's been such a valued and most appreciated colleague with so much wisdom and knowledge about the GEF and such a long period of time working on it. So we have the benefit of Ramon's great experience and being part of us for such a long time to help us through this next session. Ramon, please, the floor is yours. I think you're on mute, possibly, Ramon. At least I'm not hearing.
Yes, Ramon, you're on mute.
Sorry, I just fixed it. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who are participating in this seminar. I would rather share the actual website screen to make this demonstration instead of making presentations in the slides. So what I would like to do is to share my screen. So from there we can take it from there. Okay. So I hope you are seeing my screen now. But
yes,
before
we see it,
anything
Ramon.
else,
Please, yeah.
I would like to mention that yesterday you must have received the invitation from Kaleo, and hopefully you have been successful in registering. I was looking at the registration last night, and it is heartening that almost 1/3 of the participants have done so yesterday, and hopefully today you continue to register if you haven't done so yet. Before making my demonstration, I just would like to discuss a little bit more about the cycle, because although Yasmin has made the presentation, I think it's much clearer for you to see how the GF Kaleo works. So basically, in this orientation seminar, there is this a mixture of participants. We have council members, we have operational focal points, maybe political focal points, we have CSOs, we may have participants from the agencies, the IEO, the other organizations. And so we consider you as our clients. So basically the clients that we have, the council members, the convention secretariats, the operational focal points, and so on. But what I would like to emphasize here is that we start from, if you see this one, this is the client ask a question. So basically, since you are one of our clients, this is how you start using the Kaleo. You start asking a question, and normally, if you use the GF Kaleo, you type in your question here, and you would most likely find answers to those questions. Now, if you don't find the correct questions for that, then you move to this next questions routed to the board of experts. Oh, by the way, here I would like to mention that so far we have about 2,000 active users of the GF Kaleo. Now, as we move here, if your question is not being answered and you opted to click the button to ask that question, then your question will be routed to a board expert. Right now, we have about 14 boards and about 25 experts. So I'm sure that if you route your answer to us, you are covered by any one of these 25 experts. When we talk of the boards, we also have 14 boards. So if your thematic interest will be in biodiversity, there is a board for biodiversity, there is a board for climate change, there is a board for international waters, and so on. Now, once your question has been received by the expert would provide a response within 3 days, and within that period, after 3 days, you will be receiving a response. So hopefully, when you receive that response, you would get a satisfactory answer. But the GF Kaleo cycle doesn't end there. Remember that when you provide your response, you are actually adding to our database also, and it enriches the database of the GF Kaleo. So the answer that you provide and the questions and answers that will be generated from this process will continue to grow. And the next time around that a client asks the same question, hopefully when that client types in Kaleo, that exact question would have provided, would get an answer from this. So in short, that is how the Kaleo works. So let me go back now to okay. All right. So let's think for a moment that we don't have the GF Kaleo. You go into our website, you are looking for a document, you are looking for an information, and remember that GF has a long history of project implementation, 25 years and counting. And you just imagine the number of council documents, council papers, council information that were generated through the years. The publications that we have, they are rich. And looking at our website, it is basically a repository of all this knowledge that has been that has taken place within the past 25 years. So if I am a new client or an NGO or CSO or a political operational focal point, and I would like to know something about a specific topic or a specific theme, and I go into our website, most likely the first thing that my focus will be going into this search bar in our website. And if I am interested in looking for a project cycle, let's say project cycle, I would be able to generate a lot of documents, because what happens here is that it scours the entire website and looks for the word project and a cycle. And basically, we are, if we are looking for a specific answer, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. And of course, that would be a very difficult way of trying to unearth the kind of information that I'm looking for. Maybe if I limit my search for project cycle, I can find a few by going through this list, but maybe by chance I can find it. So the best, we've been thinking about this, how do we want to share this wealth of information that exists in our database? And so here comes the GF Kaleo, which we have installed in our website. If you find it, you find it in the right lower corner of the website. And this is basically like having a Google search in our website. When you go into Google and you type your question, Google would normally pop out several related answers. And that's exactly the same that what happens if you use Kaleo. So before you use Kaleo, however, you should be a registered user. That's why it is important that if you haven't registered yet, and if you want to maximize the utilization of this tool, then please go ahead and register. Now, the first thing that you have to do, of course, is to register. And in this case, let me register so that I can make a demonstration of how to use it. Okay. So maybe I can move this. Now here I am logged in. So maybe I have a question that I would like to ask Kaleo. So I start typing here, maybe where is GEF? And if you'll notice, while I'm typing the question, Kaleo starts spouting out some of the responses or questions in here. And I just need to look into these questions, whether it satisfies my query. Now, if it satisfies my query, well and good. That is the end of my search, and right away I would have taken my answer in just a split second. However, if I type a question and I couldn't find the correct answer, I would most likely click on ask new question, and that prompts the system to route the question to an expert. But you know, it's better. There are two ways of actually logging into the system. If you can log in here, but if you notice, you are confined to a very small space, and maybe that is not the way you want to navigate the system. Another way of doing that is, of course, how do I move this? Let me move this screen. Okay. All right. Okay. So the other way of logging in is to go into the browser and type GEF Kaleo software. And so right now what I'm seeing is my home. I am seeing this because I'm, of course, a part of the administration of Kaleo. So there are things here that I can see, and maybe there are things in your your screen that you cannot see. I am also an expert, and I am also part of the administration. So I would be seeing more of this in my screen. So again, I'm looking at the composition of the participants here. So we have operational focal points, we have GF agencies, we have CSOs, we have council members, we have staff members, we have the evaluation office members, and maybe some other participants. And of course, because maybe for the operational focal point, the questions that they are interested in may be much different from the questions or the interest of the CSOs. Or if you are a GF agency, the questions that you may have is of course different from the rest. So for this particular demonstration, I was thinking that maybe, let's say for you operational focal points, one of the most interesting questions that you may type if you are in Kaleo is that you want to know what exactly is your role. So if I type here, what is the role of operational focal point? And so you can see that Kaleo is providing you with questions and answers that has previously been answered. And if you see that some of this is relevant to the questions that you posed, then you just click on that and it provides you an answer. If you want to expand this one, you can click on the show results, and it will also show you all the questions and answers that have already been curated. In this particular list, I just want to look for one that is probably the most interesting part of this query. What are the practical steps by the operational focal points within the partnership? And this is the answer provided by our Kaleo administrator, or and then if you click in here, as much as possible, we provide also the links to the answer. And let's try to open this one. It might be of interest to operational focal points. In fact, this is one of the things that new operational focal points should be looking at, this document. Actually, this was issued on November 2018. And if you look at the contents of this one, it gives you the roles of the operational focal points. So this is one use of the GEF Kaleo. You can look for documents that are relevant to you. Maybe another question that you would normally want to find out is, what is the allocation for your particular country? And so if you, let's say, type again, what is the STAR country allocation for, name your country. Of course, if I place here, let's say Albania, you might not get an exact answer here, but you are interested in the allocations anyway. So maybe this one would be an interesting document that you want to open. And if you open this document, you will notice that this document gives the GEF STAR allocations for the countries. So if you're looking for Albania, this document would give you the total STAR allocation for GF7 in terms of the climate change, biodiversity, land degradation, and so on. So those are interesting questions that maybe an operational focal point starts asking in this Kaleo. Now, if you are a GF agency, what is the common question that we usually receive in GF? Maybe you are interested in when is the deadline for submitting projects, PIFs. Okay. So do you find an answer here? When are the new deadlines for PIF submission 2021? If you click on that, you will get an answer. It's March 24, 2021. So it's just 2 or 3 weeks away from now. You will be submitting your proposals. This is the deadline. Another question that the agencies would normally ask is, how do we open the templates? It is locked, and I would like to make some adjustments to the tables. I would like to add rows. And how do you frame that question?
Hey,
Maybe.
Ramon, Peter here, just a couple more minutes.
Yes.
I'm watching the clock a little bit. This
Okay,
is really,
okay,
really
so-
great stuff though. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so maybe I'll skip that one and maybe I'll just make one more example for the CSO this time.
And Ramon, if you could also show our colleagues their account, their homepage, where they can keep track of, you know, the questions they're asking, etc.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. Okay, so one more question for CSO, just quickly. Maybe the question that CSO would like to ask is, does GEF provide funding for CSOs? So, you know, so you see here, there is a response. This question has been responded to before. So that's how, in simple terms, how Kaleo works. Now, if you are in your screen, normally what you see is my home. All right, you will see my home. You don't see the board because this one is actually seen by experts or normally the experts who are the caretakers of the board. What you would normally see in your screen is my questions, my answers, my comments, my explain, whatever. But here, every time you ask a question, it will register here. And every time there is an answer, of course, the answer would also pop out here. So let's say you've been asking questions for the past year and you have registered maybe about 5 questions. If you go into your board, into your account, this is where you see the questions and answers. Isn't that nice? Because you would be able to trace back the things that you have already asked GEF. And for other participants who are council members or staff, you can do the same. You ask the relevant question, and hopefully, if you don't find them, you route it to an expert, and please expect the answer within 3 days. You will get an answer. And then we try as much as possible to provide you also the links to those documents once we provide those answers. Maybe another thing that I just want to show is these. If you want also to download the apps, because we also have an apps for the Kaleo, I have a small clip here. The way you can go to the App Store. You go to the App Store, you download Kaleo, you look for this widget, this fish, and you download it in your system. And then it goes, it asks for your password, email, and there you go. You can actually see it in your web, in your phone.
Very good.
So, yeah, so that basically ends my demonstration.
Okay. Thank you, Ramon. Thank you so very much. Did you finish?
Yeah, that's it. And I just want to mention that for those who have issues in registering, they can send me an email and I can do one-on-one with them so that they can. I don't see any reason for any one of the participants not to want to register, because all the benefits of having one, all the benefits of getting into this system and using this tool to get answers to our questions is something that we provide for free.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ramon, for that really wonderful presentation and walkthrough of Kaleo, this gateway into the GEF. It's a big labor, all of this, but you can just tell it's a labor of love. I know how hard you and others on the team have worked on it. And I really love the questions you were asking. I think they show the real value of this and where it takes to. And also admire your bravery for doing this live on the big screen in the system. That it worked really well. So thanks a lot, Ramon. And thank you, Yasmin. Let us now go to the next section here. Alua, are you there? We're going now to go back to the website that Ramon gave us a little bit of a glimpse of. Alua, are you there? Do you hear me?
Hold on, Peter, maybe I have to do something here.
Okay, Christina, can you get the microphones live?
Okay, she's good now.
Excellent. Let me just, hopefully the microphone will come. Alua is in the GEF Secretariat Communications team. She is leading the website work, including the update to the website that I think she will talk to us about. Alua, are you there?
Yes, Peter, now I am.
Okay, the floor is yours. Very good.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ramon. That was a great segue to the website work. And I am Alua Kennedy. I am the team lead for the digital communications, and that means the website and our social media presence. I sit in the bigger communications team, which is led by our head of comms, Robert Bissett. And we are a small but a very ambitious team, and we love providing different digital services to you guys. And so I would like to start by saying, Nico, could you please switch to the next slide? Thank you so much. So why website? Why are we talking about the website today? The reason is the website is our mothership. It's our virtual home. This is where everything connects. This is where the word global really comes to be. And this is where we can connect all of you and provide very diverse resources to very diverse audiences all over the place in all different levels of operational involvement with the GEF, or even to students and just citizens with interest in living sustainable life. So what we do is on our website, the website is a very robust platform, first of all, right? It serves many functions, and one of them is the operational, where we provide resources for our stakeholders like you who go to the website to look for very specific information, to get access to information about the funding, and so on about the council decisions, and so many different things, including even the entryway to the portal that Peter will probably talk about in 5 minutes. So how do we serve all these different audiences and make the website a good place for everyone? It's really, really hard. And we dedicate a lot of time trying to do our job there. As a communications team, we are responsible for providing the infrastructure to the operational side of the website to make sure that the resources are provided effectively, that we communicate it effectively, that you can anyone can come to the website and understand what we're doing and how we're doing our work. But as a communications team, we also have a very vibrant newsroom where we feature the work that the agencies do on the ground, how the funds are being used, and how our work benefits the people and the planet. So Nico, could you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what we do, you probably already are very familiar with the website. If you haven't taken time to explore it, please do go to our newsroom. You will see a lot of wonderful content that we produce ourselves and together with our implementing agencies. So a lot of our great agencies like UNDP, UNEP, FAO, and many others are producing stories, beautiful stories about how our work makes difference. And we feature these stories on our website, and we promote them with all the means that are available to us in our social media channels, through the different campaigns, through the newsletter campaigns. So this is what we do as the comms team. And your main point of contact for collaborations on that is Robert. And we work very closely with the communications counterparts in our agencies and other partners. And we're always welcome the, all kind of collaborations, especially on the content co-production side. Next slide, please. So, and aside from the content, there is another very important aspect of collaboration that I am here today to announce. So we are actually redesigning our website today as we speak. And the main reason for that is the technology that is changing, and we have to do that. But we also took this as an opportunity to take stock of where we are and look at how can we serve you better, how can we make sure that our search works better. Kaleo is a great tool, but we also want everyone to be able to find information easily on the website and provide it in the easier to understand and translate manner, and make it interesting and relevant for our very, very diverse audience, global audiences. So this is what we're doing now, and we're on the very final stretch of the work. But the new website is not ready yet, but it will be ready in the summer. We are hoping to have it ready for the next council meeting. But the very important thing that we want to do is to engage our external partners and our external users and get your feedback. How does it work? Can you really find the information easily? What do you use more often in your work, or just for your own curiosity? And all of that will be done in a very organized way. It's called kind of like a discovery exercise and a user testing. So we want to do that when the website is live, and that will let us give us an opportunity to fine tune the design and make sure that what we did is actually the best solution. And we will be announcing that and reaching out by email and asking our partners to help us and participate in that exercise. So we wanted to take the opportunity and speak to you today and say, please, when you see that email in July, respond, engage, help us do our work better. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alua. Really appreciated the review of our website, our wonderful website that is being updated, hopefully to make it even more, some more features behind the scenes and the latest things happening. It's a great view and image of the partnership, and we use it in so many ways. And so thanks a lot for joining us and for the communication team behind the scenes work on that. So let us now move to the last session of the day. I think we'll make it. I'll go rather quickly so we don't go much over our time. I'm going to introduce this one. This is what we've referred to a few times, the topic, another gateway into the GEF. This one is a very operational tool. It is the GEF portal. I think, Wanderson, are you out there? I would like you just to turn on your video. Because as I introduce this new GEF system for handling projects, project review, information and reporting, I'd also like to introduce you to one of our colleagues from the World Bank ITS team, Wanderson, who you may need to get to know, because all these systems, have technical complexities, and Wanderson is available along with others in the ITS team, Vivian and Priyanka, to help us answer questions and work through developing new features so we can even build more on the power of this tool. So I don't know if Wanderson, if you've come on the screen, but anyway, I think I saw you on the participants list. Let us go to the first slide. There are a couple of slides here. So just an introduction. What is the GEF portal? So we've talked about it a few times, but haven't really had a chance to dive into it. So it's the new and updated system for automated system for three main areas of the work of the partnership. So the first one is really, we can call it the project review process. So this is the place where agencies will submit project proposals for project for funding by GEF. It's where they are reviewed in the system. The Secretariat will review the project proposals, and then there's a workflow that goes through an entire process leading to the constitution of the work programs, and also the review of other projects that are not included in the work programs presented to Council. A second piece of the GEF portal is downstream from the project proposal upstream stage to the stage of project implementation. The GEF portal is the place where agencies will submit information, data, and reports on what's happening during project implementation, and it will be in the system and accessible for all to see. And the third, let's say, main functionality and aspect of the GEF portal as a project data and information system. So the portal captures all this information that is provided upstream and downstream about the entire GEF project portfolio. It's there, it's organized, and through the functionality of the system, we can generate aggregate information, generate reports. Eventually, we will be building, and we're doing it now, a dashboard to reflect what's going on in the project portfolio from the GEF portal. So in terms of access to the GEF portal, it's a password protected system. Agencies have access, political and operational focal points have access, STAP has access. We'll meet STAP tomorrow, the Science and Technical Advisory Panel. To join in, we're linking conventions, by the way, so that they will also have a landing page in the GEF portal. The ITS team will help folks to register. And there will be a discussion, a dedicated time tomorrow with Wanderson, I think Vivian and Priyanka, for folks who would like to figure out how to join into the GEF portal and ask technical questions. Let me just say that the portal, even though it's password protected, it's a working place. It has links and an automatic feed to the website. So the crucial information about the GEF projects, project proposals, the review sheets, the CEO endorsements, the project implementation reports, all of these information and much more is fed from the GEF portal to the website, so that the public and the entire GEF audience in partnership will be able to view these things through the website that Alua just spoke about. And we developed the GEF portal. We had an earlier system which basically involved email transmission of project proposals and a different kind of earlier generation functionality for managing the information and data about projects. So we did this major system transition with the support of the replenishment last time around to improve efficiency, improve transparency, and develop more capabilities for this part of for the partnership work. Next slide, Nicolas. Yeah, okay, so let me just focus on this piece of the GEF portal, which is how it works for making a project proposal. This is especially relevant to agencies, but also operational focal points. You have a view of all this. It's happening in real time. So there are entry fields, just like an application, for whatever it might be, college or something else, that need to be filled in putting a proposal into the system. And the entry fields, very importantly, are aligned to the GEF 7 programming strategy, GEF 7, and GEF policies and operations overall. So in other words, the entry fields, the things that need to be put into the GEF portal when a project is proposed, line up to all the things we've been talking about in the last couple of days. So there will be a place to indicate the project type, whether it's a full-size project, a program, an enabling activity, the programming objectives, which part of the GEF programming work and directions is the project about. They're mapped into the system. The results framework, what set of results is the project aiming to support. The policy requirements, there's a place to indicate how the policy needs are being addressed and supporting the project and its hoped for objectives. There's a place, of course, to describe the project, the components of the project, to bring into the system for everybody to see the theory of change behind the project proposal. And there's a link there actually to what STAP looks for. STAP is our Science and Technical Advisory Panel. We'll hear from them tomorrow, and they have a 3-page guidance note to help inform project proposals from the scientific and technical perspective, including on what's a strong theory of change to get to the results that we need. The proposals are mapped behind the scenes to the GEF 7 financial table. This is for the programming allocations and the STAR allocations. So the system will recognize if the proposal is within, let's say, a STAR allocation in a particular focal area and the overall programming envelope. There are also features to upload documents, supporting documents, including the endorsement letters, which we've talked a little bit about. There's a built-in workflow in the GEF portal, so the GEF Secretariat will step-by-step review the different elements of the project proposal and be in touch with the agencies. The review sheet is mapped to the entry fields to line up to what we're trying to achieve with the programming directions and the policies. And there are also places in the GEF portal for inputs from others, including STAP and the conventions. And so just in summary, all of this is designed to use the system to support the implementation of the GEF 7 agenda. There are guidance notes in terms of things to maybe keep in mind as project proposals are put into the system to achieve highest quality at entry for the best results. Okay, Nicolas, next slide, please. Okay, let me just say a little bit about the downstream. I've only got a couple of more slides here. The downstream in the GEF portal project implementation. This is brand new. We never before, GEF 7 had a system where we would really upload and collect and be able to see at a portfolio level what's going on in project implementation in the way that we now have with the GEF portal. So there are entry fields aligned to the requirements for data and information during project implementation. This is the lower part of the car ride that was in Henry's slide yesterday. So we have to make it that I think hairpin turn to go from the upstream project proposal, design, PIF, and preparation to implementation. And during implementation, this is under the monitoring policy of the GEF and other policies, the reporting on ratings on projects, the timing of the project, what's the date of first disbursement, midterm, and terminal evaluation, so to help us keep track of how projects are going along in the implementation timeline. There are also fields to let us know the progress in implementing the various policies. Also, very importantly, at midterm review and terminal evaluation, there's a place to enter what's happening in terms of realizing the results during a project. So you have targeted results at PIF stage and at CEO endorsement stage. And then at midterm and terminal, you have the results that are being achieved as well as co-financing. And there's also boxes for lessons learned. We'll see if we can capture and use the power of the system to identify lessons that we can share throughout the partnership. So it's really also the required annual reports, implementation reports will be, there's a place for those in the system, and it's designed to have everything together in one place. Okay, Nicolas. So a third piece, in addition to the project proposals and review, the implementation information, are the data and reporting features of the portal. There are some reporting functionalities available to everyone, agencies, focal points, as well as the Secretariat, to access the data and information on the GEF 7 and GEF 6 projects, to have real-time data on all the projects, on the uses of the STAR allocations. It's displayed in spreadsheets with a lot of information, and we're trying to provide information and transparency to all users. Next slide. Okay, so we're at the end of the meeting. So what I'm just going to do is give an impressionistic look of what it looks like inside. You see that little chess piece that has just gone through a portal? That's where we're going to go right now. It's not going to be a live demo, but I'm just going to give us a quick look. So this is a landing page for the operational focal points, the OFPs and the political focal points as well. You will see when you go in, you will have a view of all the projects in your country, all regional projects in which your country is involved, all global projects, as well as all the programs which the Claude and Mohammed spoke about. Those are of general interest, and we want to give focal points of view of all of those things. And I won't go through how you can access the information about the documents, except to say that for each of these projects, if you go to that right-hand icon, there's a little folded paper. You click on that, and you'll get all kinds of documents and information about each project. Next slide. Okay, here's a view of the agency landing page that's in the GEF portal. There is actually an agency workspace in the GEF portal that the IT team created for us. So even before agencies submit a project to the GEF Secretariat, there's a place for doing internally to the agency, draft projects back and forth within the agency. Eventually the projects are submitted. This bar shows each of those different categories of where the project is. At the top of it, you'll also see there's the search feature. There's an advanced search feature in the GEF portal. The OFPs also have a search feature. And each of these drop-down menus, type of project, GEF period, agency, focal area, funding source, status of the project, gives a range of menu of options that you can choose, which again reflects some of the things that we've been talking about. So you can go find all full-size projects in Africa having to do with biodiversity in GEF 7, or any other kind of search parameters that you would like to include for getting the projects listed to take a look at. Next screen. So I won't say much about this, except when you see the little circle, which is very hard to see in the lower right there, of that little folded paper, very small. When you click on that, you will get this menu, which shows the different kind of core documents in the workflow that will come up for your review. A PIF review sheet, CEO endorsement, if the project has already gone to the CEO endorsement stage. You see at the bottom there, if this is a project under implementation, it's 9606 on biodiversity. So you can see the implementation reports, stakeholder comments, and in the stakeholder comments, there might be comments from staff and from conventions and from council members. Nicholas, let's keep going. I think there's just one more. Or maybe two. Yeah, okay, so this is just the reports. To be able to use the reporting functionality of the GEF portal, there's the icon on the left, that little bar table, which is in blue, which gets you to these two tabs. And this is where you will be able to go to click to get spreadsheets of information on these topics, which will include project by project, GEF 6 or GEF 7, all kinds of data and information on those projects. Next slide. And this is an example of being able to get implementation reports. There you see for this particular project, GEF ID 5759, the first two project implementation reports that have been uploaded by the agency. I think one last slide is just to say who the folks are that you can contact. So Wanderson is hopefully in the system here today, but in any event, he will be, I think, with maybe one or two colleagues at 10:30 Washington, D.C. time tomorrow morning. If folks would like to register for the GEF portal and to ask any technical questions, I will also be there to answer any follow-up questions, because now we're at the end of our session and we won't keep going with more time. This is probably a big splash as well. The GEF portal, we are continuing to work with World Bank ITS folks. They're using and helping us to find state-of-the-art ways of helping us to manage our projects, to have a user-friendly system that is transparent and provides real-time access in all of these areas. It's been also a lot of work, and just to say that these things, developing this kind of thing, has not been easy. We know there will be some glitches or technical questions that come up. And so on the screen here, you see people, including me, to contact. I've been coordinating in a certain way the overall development of the GEF portal to ask questions and help you get be able to dive into it. So Nicholas, if you can pull this off the screen, and then we can just, I guess, let me just take a breath. Oh, there I see Priyanka. Wow. So, okay, now that the screen, let me just introduce to everybody. I see Priyanka and Wanderson from the ITS team. If you can both wave. You may be getting to know them well because they are the ones that can really help you dive in and understand the potential and the sort of how to navigate through the GEF portal system. All right. So we're a few minutes after time. I would just like to then help us conclude the session today. We don't have any more closing remarks because we're going to save that for tomorrow. Tomorrow, as we have promised, at the end of the session, we'll have another gathering with our CEO, and in this case with our two directors. Françoise, I see her in the lower left of my screen. You've met Françoise, and Gustavo, I don't know if he's online or somewhere, but if not, anyway, you've also seen Gustavo. So the three of them, you know, with under the CEO will be available for a nice dialogue tomorrow as we close the session, and we'll think about, you know, digesting all of these things that we've been putting together. And let me just say tomorrow, one preview about tomorrow, we'll be starting at the same time. Tomorrow, we're going to go back to one of our earlier questions, which is who we are. We've been talking a lot about what we do and how we do it and where we're going and why it's all important. But tomorrow we're going to reintroduce and introduce for the first time more of the who we are, which are some of the really important partners in our partnership, which is the trustee, the adaptation fund, the staff, the independent evaluation office. And then Chiz will help us introduce ourselves to the conventions that we are all here to serve. So everybody, thank you very much. We really appreciate your, you know, going back and forth between Plenary and the breakout groups and staying with us across all these time zones. It's been a pleasure seeing you. Let me now start to close down the session. If you would like to turn on your microphones to wish everyone, and your videos to wave and wish everyone a nice rest of the day and evening, we're going to start to gradually sign us off. Bye-bye, everybody.
Peter, before I turn on the mics, I just want to remind everybody that we'll have the breakouts tomorrow starting at 6:30 a.m. DC time for
yes, thank you.
Kaleo,
Yeah.
Kaleo. And
right,
also,
so,
right.
Right, more on Kaleo at well, bright and early DC time, and even earlier for some. That's 6:30 Washington DC time. The GEF portal breakout will be at 10:30 DC time. So we'll have those two separated. Okay, folks. Anything else, Christina? Okay.
Yeah, let me unmute people. Hold on a second, please.
Oh yeah, we gotta put the microphones back on.
Just a second, please. Hold on.
I don't know why mine doesn't go muted.
No, because you're a co-host. Thank you.
Oh,
Very good. Very good.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
See you tomorrow.
Thank
Muchas gracias.
you.
Buen día.
Au revoir.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Hi, Laura.
Gracias a
Bye,
ustedes.
Laura. Hi, Laura.
Bye, Cristina. Good to see you.
Bye, Cristina. Bye.
Pilar.
Bye.
Chao, Laura. Estés bien.
Un abrazo. Muchas gracias.
Lo mismo.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Nico, chao.
All
Bye,
right,
Video.
Christina, when it gets a little lower, you can pull the plug. When we get into the 70s, that's when we all say goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Soon.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a good day. Shukran in Arabic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shukran. Bye-bye.
شكرا وإلى اللقاء. شكرا وإلى اللقاء. مرحبا.
شكرا لك.
شكرا.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Pour cette introduction. Et nous, comme association, nouveaux membres au réseau, nous vous remercions beaucoup. On a beaucoup appris. Et vraiment, le GEF, c'est une grande organisation. Vraiment beaucoup de formation pour qu'on puisse s'intégrer facilement.
Merci beaucoup, Françoise. Oui.
Merci à vous. Vos commentaires sont très appréciés et votre présence encore plus. Merci beaucoup, Mustapha.
OK, à bientôt.
À bientôt. Bye bye.
OK.
Peter, should I?
Yeah, time to
Time
end.
to go?
Yep.
Time to go. Bye-bye,
Time to say
everybody.
goodbye.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
it's very
Thank you.
difficult to say goodbye, but we have
It
to
is
do it.
indeed.
Bye-bye.